Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another special episode of Death, Taxes, and Sports Baseball Edition. I'm here with two very passionate sports gentlemen, Mr. Brett Geis and a good family member of ours, Willing Epting Jr. for Shakeback Media Group. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing? And thank you for coming on.
Doing great. Thanks for the invite. Really appreciate it.
No doubt, no doubt. Willie, how you doing, boss?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No doubt, no doubt. When I always think of Willie, I always think football, but I keep on forgetting you're also a baseball fan. So I'm glad that you posted. I was like, got to bring him on. Got to add a little bit more excitement to this conversation here.
Yes, indeed. Let's get it.
And what team? And remind me again of your baseball team. So
my team is the Oakland A's.
Okay, the Vegas A's. How are you feeling about that?
I'm having a love-hate relationship with it right now. And that's just with the Oakland A's in general, or the A's organization, the city of Oakland. I don't have enough time to get into all that, man. But let's just say it's Armageddon in sports because of what's about to take place.
Yeah. And one of the things is like, Brett, we've talked about on Twitter a little bit. It's like they're going from the sixth largest media market, or sixth or seventh, to the 40th. And it's like you just can't play the same type of success that the Vegas Knights have had, and to some extent the Raiders, to baseball when you're playing in a desert and it's 82 games in a season.
Yeah, I just think the main thing with the A's going from Oakland to Las Vegas is, like you're saying, you're going from the sixth biggest media market to the 40th best. Now, obviously, the Golden Knights have brought on a humongous fan base out here. Basically, they've been their baby since day one. Whereas with the A's, yes, 81 games in the desert. If they have a dome, that's a possibility. But at the same time, the A's are going to be relying a lot on the tourism out here, because a lot of people that move out here are, fans of other teams in bigger markets. They may embrace the A's when they play other teams and so on and so forth, but also a lot of them are having issues with the ownership right now, and rightfully so. A lot of them are questioning, John Fisher right now, and they're really not excited about the vote going forward, especially since they're going to be giving them about $380 million in tax money too.
Yeah, and Willie, think and all good facts, Brett, and Willie. Like, my thing is, it's like when you think about it, there's so many other places where they could have gone, right? Where you think about Nashville, you think about Charlotte has been up there. Montreal, I think, maybe would have been a good market. They even have talks about Salt Lake City. So it'll be definitely very interesting to see what happens with expansion. But sorry about your Oakland A's, man. Oakland is a very passionate fan base for sure.
Yeah, and they did the same thing with the Raiders. They gave Mark Davis, I think it was $500 million. And how when the A's do move to Vegas, it's going to have to be a dome. It can't be anything other than that in the desert. I think for the A's, with the fact that they're going to have a more modern venue as opposed to what they're playing in right now and have been playing since 1967, I want to say, I think it's going to allow the ownership group to really change their objectives in terms of their business strategy or their organizational strategy, and actually go out and try to sign some big players. I mean, if you look at some of the players that the A's have had in the last 5 years that are on other teams, Mark Canha, for example, he against the Phillies in the game today. I mean, he hit a home run that actually put the game out. Well, I wouldn't say out of reach, but he put the Mets up in that game, and they never looked back. There's all sorts of other players out there as well that came from Oakland that are doing very well on other teams. And here we are. We can barely draw, 1,500 fans to an arena that has been there since before I even was living out there. So it's the city of Oakland's fault that the Raiders are gone. It's the city of Oakland's fault that the Raiders are gone. It's the city of Oakland's fault that the A's are about to be gone, and it's the city of Oakland's fault that the Warriors are now in San Francisco.
I mean, those are all facts. I mean, it's just one of those things where sometimes politics kind of plays into sports, but we're a sports show. We don't want to get too political. Oakland is I've had, it's a tough thing. It really is. I mean, for speaking from a guy from Baltimore who has family who remember when the Colts left up in the middle of the night to literally go someplace else. Whenever a team, and then the people up here in Seattle, right where I live, I had a guy that was wearing a Kevin Durant jersey at the Yankees game, and I'm just like, man, you were ready for the Supersonics to come back. He's like, yeah. So it's tough when a team loses, but hey, it is what it is. But hey, I'm not, but we'll see what happens with the Vegas A's. Maybe they change the name, maybe not. I don't know. But so tonight we want to talk about a couple other things here, right? We're going to talk about a little bit of MLB rule changes, how that's been impacting the game. Definitely about 2 or 3 players who've been a little bit disappointed. Can't wait to talk about that cheater, Carlos Correa. Yes, I still think I'm still a hater. I do not like him, and I do not wish anything good for him in the game of baseball. Talk a little bit division races. Look, I'm still salty. I still feel how I feel. He's a cheater. Like, it is what it is. And then we're going to talk about some MLB prospects. So let's, definitely get right to this. And Brett, the first MLB pitching change, the thing for me is a pitch clock. And for those listeners who don't necessarily realize what the pitch clock is, essentially it restricts pitchers to 15 seconds to be able to throw a pitch if the bases are empty, 20 seconds if there's a runner on base. Hitters must be in the batter's box before the clock hits 8. If a pitcher does not throw a strike or throws a pitch in the required time, it's an automatic ball. Whereas if a batter does not get into the batter's box, it's a strike will be called. For a pitcher, the penalty is enforced if he has not begun his pitching by the time the clock has expired. High level, Brett, what are some of your thoughts? Because I definitely think it's definitely messed up the rhythm of some of the pitchers.
The pitch clock has been very interesting addition to the MLB, and I think it's mainly been a good thing. The MLB has been researching this for quite some time. They've been having issues with a lot of dead time going on within the games and losing a lot of fan interest. That's why the attendance has been steadily declining over time. But with the pitch clock change, it definitely has shown that some hitters and pitchers can adjust, some can't. Guys like Kenley Jansen are having a hard time. Guys that, say that they don't rush their craft. Whereas I think with the pitch clock, and it's come down from the average time of the game last year was 3 hours and 6 minutes. Okay, the games now have gone down to 2 hours and 39 minutes. So that's showing that a lot of the dead period, like, Nomar Garciaparra getting out of the box every single pitch, adjusting his batting gloves, constant pitching changes. It's also helping pitchers and hitters develop a newer skill set as well that's more mental and more rhythm based. And, a lot of these prospects coming up from the minors are used to it because they start implementing them there. But I think it's definitely been a positive change for Major League Baseball, and also Kenley Jansen had mentioned that, pitchers are going to start getting more hurt, because they're rushing them. I don't necessarily agree with that because as of May 22nd this year, the pitchers on the injured list have been 72 pitchers in the major leagues that have been put on the injured list. That's up from only 69 on the same date last season. And also, on top of that, the days spent on the injured list have gone down from 1,138 days to 1,132. So I don't necessarily agree with him on that one. But I do believe that it has opened up a whole new element to this game. And also the attendance has increased as well. So fans are getting more interested. So I think it's a positive thing for the game.
Hey, good stuff. Willie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think for the game to be shorter, it actually brings more interest back to the game for the younger crowd, especially when you have not during the summer months, but that time between opening day and then when school gets out, and then when school gets back in August, then you have the playoff chase. It's definitely going to make a difference there. I actually was on a show on last night, Tribune South, one 108 Stitches of Baseball, and that's with Scott Morganroth and Motor City Mad Mouth. And we were talking to Warren Brewster, a World Series winning pitcher from the 1980 Philadelphia Phillies. And I asked him that very same question. And he said basically that for him, it wouldn't have mattered to him because he was a get the ball, get the sign and go guy kind of guy. And that obviously is what has been missing when you talk about Nomar Garciaparra, Brett. I just closed my eyes for a second and envisioned him stepping out of the box, doing his gloves, doing his helmet, and then doing this thing with the feet inside the box. And those things, you guys, I mean, when you have enough batters doing that over a particular set of 9 innings or more, that stuff adds up. And even with the pitchers who like to continue to try to throw over the first base, you only get 1 now. You may get 2. And when a pitcher is when there is a runner on a base, they actually get 25 seconds instead of 15. That is all great. And also, you know, what it does to me is, or for me is, it will keep people more engaged because the action is flowing a lot better.
Facts. And, you know, it's crazy because when I was literally at the game, there was someone that went to the bathroom and one of their buddies was like, bro, you better hurry up because it's probably going to be 3 innings that pass.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool. The game started at 6:45. It was already at the 8th inning. And I remember, I don't know why I remember this vividly. The clock time is at 8:21. It was in the 8th inning. And I'm like, this is great. This is great. The speed of the game, Brett, these games, especially when it gets into the summertime, I love baseball, but the speed of the game definitely has to get up. But I want to toss it to you about these base sizes just to try to get this time going here. What I thought was an interesting one was they making them 18 inches versus the previous 15 inches, as well as part of an effort to be able to worsen the injuries. Didn't really think about that. I completely forgot that they opened the bases or they widened the bases a little bit. What are your thoughts?
I definitely agree with the move. It's definitely, as a former baseball player, you know, it makes a whole lot of sense, especially to prevent these guys from stepping on each other's ankles, from colliding, from all that stuff, so they can feel a lot safer when they're running down the baseline. Also, it's also helped with stolen bases as well. You know, it is about 3-inch difference, which is not huge, but in terms of bases and baseball, it is a big difference, especially when you get a good jump. And they did the bases to coincide with the pitch clock and the pickoff attempts at first as well. And stolen bases have just gone up, and a lot of safer plays have been happening. So it's definitely been a huge positive for baseball.
Awesome. Willie, your thoughts?
100%. And I love what the Arizona Diamondbacks are doing. I think they have a total of I didn't see how many stolen bases they got today, but coming into today's play, they had like 74 stolen bases, which leads the majors. I want to give a name to you guys, and his name is Ricky Henderson. That dude stole 140 bags 1 year.
What?
1 year.
Uh-huh.
And you were having combined teams in one league or the other that didn't have that many. So for me, it's exciting to see. And as a black man who baseball is my favorite sport, it was the first sport I fell in love with. It's the sport that I played the best. I think these rule changes add a little bit more of a need for more athleticism. Not to say that baseball does not require athleticism, because we all know that it does. But I feel like it brings an added dimension of athleticism to the sport, because, man, swiping bags or putting the ball in play and playing small ball, those are all great things, man, that people that really love the sport of baseball actually enjoy seeing. You know, we don't really care for it. I'm speaking for me, and I'm going to speak for some other people that I know. But we don't really care for, you know, home run after home run after home run. You know, we don't really care for that. So when you have that kind of action going on, man, again, it keeps the fans engaged, and it actually makes these games go a little bit shorter. And you're right, Brett, when you talk about how one rule piggybacks off the other, that's exactly true, because now what we're seeing is, unlike it was during the performance enhancing drug era, where it was bash, bash, bash for offense, now you have these stolen bases, you have no more shift, which I'm sure we're going to get into as well, and all those things that allow you to, or that will make you become true runs batted in.
Facts.
Yeah.
And you think of, and shout out to Oakland A's. Hopefully I don't butcher his name. Estory Ruiz. The man has 28 stolen bases. I
Yep.
mean, that man is. I got on in several of my fantasy leagues. That man is just straight box office. It's going to be very exciting. I think the stolen bases definitely add a lot to it. But just like you talked to it, William, I'm going to throw this to you because I know you probably want to talk about the shift rule here. The shift rule, so people who don't realize, so the teams will now be required to have a minimum of 4 infield players lined with both feet completely in front of the outer boundary of the infield dirt, and may only have 2 infield players on either side of the second base. I really want to get your thoughts on this, Willie, and then I'll throw it to you as far as what are your thoughts on the shift, because I think it has definitely impacted some of the batters.
Yeah, I mean, I hated the shift. And it's not because of the shift itself. It was because you had these professional hitters that could not put the ball in play to the other side. For whatever reason, they could not do it. And because they couldn't do it, it's my firm belief that it really did bring down the integrity of the game, for the lack of a better phrase. Now, they're getting smarter with this, because in the game I saw today, was watching between the Mets and the Phillies. They had Frankie Lindor, shortstop for the Mets, like 15% angled from the right side of the second base to his right, and then they had the second baseman that was closer to the bag, but they were still all 4 infielders on that dirt, and so they're getting smarter with it. But I'm glad to see it. I can tell you one player who I know is as happy as a clam to see it, and that's Corey Seager. Corey Seager from the Texas Rangers, man, had 26 hits robbed from him last year because of the shift.
I mean, I like the shift personally, Brett. I mean, like, we all play baseball, and I remember my JV coach, we literally would spend at least 2 hours like a week trying to hit on the opposite side of the field. So, I mean, if you're a professional, but I get it though. I mean, it's good for baseball to an extent, but I didn't really have an issue. What is it? It's a strategy. I mean, it's a strategy move, but hey, it is what it is. But what are your thoughts, Brett?
The shift ban has been quite interesting to me. It's definitely made a difference with certain hitters like Corey Seager, Joey Gallo, and Anthony Rizzo is also having a really great year. And these power hitters that are just dead pull hitters, they're finding more holes up the middle or to their pull side. The MLB batting average last year was 243 league average. It has now gone up to 248. So that might be the slight difference making as well. And also the slugging percentage has gone up from 395 to 410. So there are probably slight differences with certain players. Maybe not all of the players who are what you call professional hitters who can hit all over the field. That might make a little bit of a difference. But to touch on Willie's point, teams are trying to find a way to circumvent the shift. That's for sure. I've seen the Red Sox do it. I've seen the Mets do it. And teams are trying to always get a strategy to work around it. I don't mind the shift, basically because, like you said, it is a strategy, and hitters should figure out how to hit the ball the opposite way. That's my personal opinion. But it's made a slight difference.
Thoughts, Willie? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, one other thing behind that, Brett, and the thing with the shift for me is that I think it made the product worse. And in this age of exit velocity and launch angles and all that stuff, that particular rule was not going to be conducive to what they were putting in place with these advanced stats.
Right.
Because now, when you have the shift, all of the other stuff goes down, and that obviously was geared towards the long ball or exciting extra base hits or what have you. And I don't think baseball, Major League Baseball for that matter, wanted to wait the amount of time that it probably would have taken for batters to become reaccustomed to the way we used to hit the ball back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also agree with your point from earlier about the base stealing and more strategy on the base paths. You know, that all adds up with the shift as well. You know, when you have this all intertwined and connected, it creates a whole lot of chaos on the base paths. You know, and that's what makes baseball fun. You know, baseball is trying to go back to the game that was many years ago where it had the 2.5 hour games, you know, up until about the late 80s, 90s, the game was more at a brisk pace and also had more running as well. And then obviously when steroid era came and more modern baseball, you know, it was chicks dig the long ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to try to keep hitting home runs, but now, you know, now you have to get a little bit more creative with your plays and your strategy. And I think it's been great for baseball is trending up, in my opinion.
Yeah, facts. And gentlemen, when we talked about like the state of the MLB, I would say like when the president talks about the state of the union, the state of MLB is strong. The one thing when you look at from a demographic standpoint, the average fan is older. The average baseball fan is older than football and basketball. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
These rule changes, to your point, Willie, when it comes to like the excitement factor, I didn't even think about that. It adds that level of excitement. And if they want to be able to bring more people out to the games, and if they want to stay viable and they want to be able to attract better talent, baseball is a great sport, and I think that what they're doing is definitely the right thing. So when it comes to one of the other final rules here, the pitcher player eligibility for pitching, I thought this one was very interesting. So it specifies that a team may only put a position player in that pitcher if they're losing by 8 runs or more, or winning by 10 runs or more in the 9th or extra innings. Previously, a position player could be put on the pitcher's mound and the team was winning or losing by 6 or more runs. Brett, what are your thoughts on this one? Because it was kind of funny when they had Anthony Rizzo was still playing with the Cubs, and I remember they put that man in the game one time, and it was almost as if it was like a home run derby because he was just throwing lobs like it was like a softball, like a corporate softball event.
Honestly, with the position player pitching rule, I mean, it doesn't make that much of a difference to me. I always thought it was more for fun and games. Obviously, you know, when you've got Cody Clemens out there striking out Freddie Freeman, you know, and then you start thinking about his father, it's like, what? You know, and I mean, obviously a team shouldn't put a position player in the pitch if it's less than 8 runs or more. You know, there's no use. But honestly, that rule, I don't know how much of a difference it makes for me. Another rule, if you don't mind me hitting on this one, that really has improved it as well is the having the when you throw over to first base, you can only throw pickoff attempt 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Facts. Willie, your thoughts?
Yeah, the position player going out there to the bump to throw to somebody is nothing but entertainment for me. I can't remember who it was. I think it was last week. It may have been Ronald Acuna Jr. from the Braves against whoever it was, and the pitcher threw like a 48-mile-an-hour la-la, and then another 51-mile-an-hour la-la, and then he fools them with a 74-mile-an-hour strikeout, and they just all laughed. So from that perspective, it's fun. It's funny. It gives us something to talk about. But really, in terms of how that rule is going to impact a certain game, has absolutely nothing to do with the results of the game. If it's going to be a close game or whatnot, nothing to do with it. And it's in terms of the pitching or throwing over to first base. What you're going to end up seeing, and what I have seen more of, is more snap throws from the catcher to first base, more so than the pitcher's trying to get a pickoff.
Hey, that's definitely a good one. Brett, real quick, 30 seconds.
Yeah, because when pitchers are, you know, obviously you only have 3 attempts to throw over, and then on the 3rd attempt you have to get him, or else he gets second base. Definitely a lot more snap throws to first. I've seen Alvarez do it a lot. I've seen Elias Diaz from the Rockies. You know, that seems to be a strategy for these teams to kind of circumvent that rule as well, you know, to keep focus on that runner on first base. One thing that I really love about the rule, though, is especially is if teams are not doing snap throws to first, is that, like we mentioned with the rules earlier, it's more stolen bases, more havoc on the base paths.
All exciting stuff. These rules are definitely going to be. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how these rules continue to be able to play. And I definitely think that want to kind of bring into the next segment when it comes to the 2 3 players we each have been disappointed, players that we are very surprised about or are performing at a high level. We'll start off with a little bit of the disappointment. I mean, I really wanted to go Carlos Correa, but I feel like I have to kind of go with Alex Manoah on this one because he's just been absolutely horrendous. I mean, you think about it, the man has pitched 35 innings in the minors between 2019 and 2021 before getting called up. Over the past 2 seasons, the man had a 2.6 ERA with a 1.01 whip, despite making 27 of his 51 starts against the loaded AL East. He finished third in the AL Cy Young vote last year, even got a few AL MVP votes. Now, this year, his walk rate is 6.37 walks per 9 ratio. Brad, I know how you love these stats. And he's walked at least 4 batters in 7 of his 11 starts, and even had a brutal 7-walk, 3 strikeout game, and is entering this season with a brutal 5.53 ERA. Talking about a guy who has completely fallen off the face of the earth, Brett.
Yeah, I mean, Alek Manoah has been a huge disappointment this year. Other media and fans alike were, he could take a leap. He had a pretty darn good season last year. So who knows how well he could have possibly done this season. But there was an indicator that possibly he would have control issues later on in his career. He did lead the league in hit by pitches and wild pitches last season. He, like you said, he only had 35 innings pitched in the minor leagues. He pitched in low A, I know, right before COVID, and then they sent him right to AAA in spring training, right into the bigs. So he got pretty successful pretty quick. So now that he's facing this, adversity in his second season, he's having a hard time, getting back on track. And the main reason for his issues right now is, and I touched on this on Twitter the other day, is that Alek Manoah is having a very hard time coming back ahead of the count when he falls behind. Now, he's throwing about 57%, first strike rates, which is about below average, but not horrendous. But when he gets behind in the count, say 1-0, 2-0, he can't come back from it, and teams are hitting. Now, his stuff hasn't really changed. Like, his miles per hour hasn't really gone down. His slider's effectiveness is about the same. But when hitters are putting themselves in these counts that are to their advantage, it's making his slider throw more over the middle and giving them gimme pitches, which is making them more effective. So he's been really struggling with the mental aspect of that part.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. Willie, your thoughts, and then give your player.
Yeah, I can see that he may be affected by some of these rule changes as well. Because when you fall behind in the count like that, the last thing you want to do is feel like you're being sped up. And you could quite possibly be tipping your pitches at that point. And then that's never a good thing. So he's got good enough stuff. I think he just needs to figure out in his head and get some rhythm going, to where he can actually adjust more appropriately to the pace of the game that will satisfy his skill set. My player that I feel like is an enigma right now is Kyle Schwarber. I mean, my gosh, he does have 14 home runs, but he's batting I want to say he's in the 140s. And today against the Mets, he looked like I don't even know how to describe it. Now, Kyle Schwarber is notoriously known for being a slow starter, and June is his month. But I think he probably thought that today was still May 32nd or something, because I think he struck out 4 times against the Mets today. So, and I feel like he's going to get it together. But he's really struggling right now.
Yeah, Kyle Schwarber's always been.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, Kyle Schwarber's always been like one of those guys, Brett, where he'll give you like that's a good one, Will. I really like that one. He's like a guy that will give you like 35 to 40 home runs, but will bat like 230, 240, but has never really batted below the Mendoza line. I mean, that's just like a whole nother type of Kyle Schwarber. If he finishes with 140, we might as well call it the Kyle Schwarber line. I don't know, but your thought, Brett? And then
So Kyle Schwarber right now is kind of reminding me of Adam Dunn during his later years. You
Mhm.
know, he's hitting for a lot of power, but he's not hitting for average. And he's a 228 career hitter. You know, not something that scouts expected coming out of college because he had a pretty advanced bat. But they started to discover once he got to the majors that he did have a swing and miss issue. He is striking out about 30% of the time, which is pretty bad. But he is walking at the highest rate of his career, which is about 13, 14%. The problem with Kyle Schwarber is that he's your true 3 outcome guy right now. That's what it is. He'll hit 210, 215, hit 35, 40 home runs and have maybe a less than 2 wins above replacement, you know, just because of how he is in the field. He's just one of those guys, like I said, like Adam Dunn, where he'll just hit for a lot of pop and he won't hit for much of an average. He'll get on base. And that's kind of been the story with him since later in Chicago. He's definitely a player. I wanted to bring up one more player, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you know,
who
you
I think
definitely
is
please go. Your player.
really struggling. It's Jose Abreu. I mean, the guy for the so, and that's one of the biggest issues with the Astros right now. The Astros are trying to rely on him at first base to bring in some power, but he's got 1 home run. He's hitting in the 160s, I believe. His StatCast numbers are terrible. I mean, you could kind of see it last year at his age 35 season. He only hit 15 home runs, and could be age-related what's going on. But it's definitely, the signing has looked terrible for the Astros with their replacement at first.
Yeah, and Willie, I feel like Jose Abreu, I feel like his numbers have been kind of in decline the last like 3 or 4 seasons, right? Where he's kind of had some slow starts. He might have a little bit of pop to the bat. So what I thought though, Willie, that when those damn cheating Astros got him, I'm just like, how did the richer keep getting richer? Now they have Jose Abreu. Now they're gonna. I'm just like, I mean, I don't know. Your thought on Jose Abreu with the cheaters?
Well, I want to look at it from another standpoint. There's a reason why the White Sox did not re-sign him. So obviously they knew something that everybody else in the world only thought. He has not been the same since he won the MVP a few years ago, and he's not going to be the same. I think that ballpark down in Houston is tailor-made for his skills because he can yank it, and that's one of the shorter parks in all of baseball. But at 36 years old, you don't get less strong. You just become, your vision and your hand-eye coordination slows down. Your bat speed slows down. So I think that's what we may be seeing with this kid in terms of all of that. But the Astros are still the Astros. And, you know, I understand, Jeff, I understand your hatred for the Astros. I mean, I've got a 21-year-long grudge against the New England Patriots. So it's all good.
Yeah, you know, listen, like the Astros though, like I hate them more than I hate the Red Sox. Like if I had to choose, like I would root for the Red Sox before I root for the Astros. Like that's how much I hate them. I will I think they're the worst franchise in sports history. I wish them nothing but just misery and just God, I can't stand them. But anyway, I think I've made my point. But kind of continue this thing going on here because I really want to get to some of the teams here. We'll do one player each as far as players that we're happy with. One of my favorite players, I think, in the league right now is Zach Gallen. Right, guy had a 7-2 record with 82 Ks, a 2.72 ERA with a 1.03 WHIP. Doesn't give up a lot of hits, showing a lot of great control. At home, he's currently perfect with 6-0, and he's only allowed an opponent batting average of 158 and 54 Ks at home. And he's also very impressive, 82 to 16 K to walk ratio over 7 2/3 innings. And is the reason why the D-backs right now are in second place with a 33-23 record, Willie.
They're in first place.
Oh, excuse me. First place. I'm sorry.
And the Diamondbacks swept the Colorado Rockies today for the first time since 2002, I think it was
2002.
Yeah. So, and you talk about you talk about a team that has benefited from these rule changes. That team is scary, athletic, and they're very, very good. Marte, he actually hit the hit that he had in the ninth inning today. It would have been a single by most people's estimations, but he took advantage of some bad defense from the Rockies and ended up on second base. And then the next thing you know, the other kid, I can't think of his name, the rookie, the center fielder, he comes up and he hits a walk-off. But so yeah, the Diamondbacks are in first place, Jeff. I just want to make sure you realize that, because everybody out there that's a Diamondbacks fan is watching. You don't want
Diamondbacks have played great.
Yes, they have, and
they have played great baseball.
I am really impressed with that team, and as a matter of fact, I'm always looking for a team to adopt. So they might be my team next to adopt. But my player that I'm really, really happy to see performing as good as he is, or as well as he is. Can we talk about Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays?
Yeah, man. Leading the team batting average right now, I believe, isn't he?
Not only that. I mean, they have a Rosarena, of course, and they have a couple other big boppers in there as well. But Yandy Diaz already has, I believe it's 10 home runs, if I'm not mistaken. His season high for throughout his career is only 12.
Yeah, he has 12 home runs right now.
He has 12 now, and I think maybe his 50, but he's going to shatter that record for himself. And Diaz to me is firmly a top 3 AL MVP candidate, because he is the best player on the best team.
I mean, Brett, they're the best team right now, but those Yankees are still in, like, I think 4, maybe 5 games back. But I'm kidding. No, the Rays.
The Yankees are 34 and 24, correct? Tampa's 40 and 18. So yeah, they're right there.
Rays, I'm giving all the Rays all the credit they have. I mean, we got to give Wander Franco, who's also become one of my favorite players, because that man had a very slow start and it's just coming around. And Willie, you also said Arena, whatever the heck his name is, that man has 40 RBIs and is an absolute stud. They're very exciting. Hopefully their pitching will get healthy, but we'll talk about them in a little bit later in the show. But go ahead, Brett.
I was going to say about Tampa Bay, I mean, they lead the MLB in stolen bases, I believe. They've got 77 bags stolen. They're also leading the league in home runs. They have 103 already, which is mind-boggling. And also Wander Franco, he's the best prospect I've ever seen and ever, evaluated in my lifetime. And to see him finally bust open and stay healthy consistently has been incredible to watch. And one thing about Wander Franco that, in my opinion, I think he's a Hall of Fame talent. That's how good I think he'll be. He's a 300 hitter with a 319 BABIP, so it's not luck. He's also I think got 8 or 9 home runs right now. He's stolen 15 bases, which has been a shock actually for a lot of people. And he's playing really great defense, and he's leading the American League in wins above replacement right now. He's been something special. But to have Yandy Diaz batting first and then have Wander Franco batting second, Brandon Lau's solid still at batting third, but then you have Rosarena batting fourth, who, I mean, it's looking like they probably won that trade with St. Louis for Liberatore. And then on top of that, another player I want to point out is Josh Lowe and his development as an outfielder with Tampa Bay. He was a first-round pick many years ago out of high school, positionless, and they weren't sure about him. Progressed one level a year through the minors, and now he's a 5-tool talent. So he's definitely.
And your player?
My player?
Yeah.
Well, Willie's going to like this. Maybe not for his team right now, but, he was there before Sean Murphy. I mean, Sean Murphy has been an absolute monster this season. He's in the 99th percentile with exit velocity. His StatCast numbers are through the roof. And I knew he would benefit, coming from Oakland. Obviously, they're not a hitter's ballpark, going to Atlanta. And now he's in a lineup protected by so many bats. He's getting so many great at-bats, and he's hitting the ball with authority. He's having a career year, and he's establishing himself as a top 5 player. I believe.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, all good stuff. All good stuff. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little bit of pivot because I definitely want to talk about some of these prospects here. But I'm just going to throw out a couple teams here and just kind of get some of your thoughts. And the first one I really want to do right now is talk about these Atlanta Braves, right? The record is not necessarily like eye-popping at 32-23, but they still have a run differential plus 56. But I mean, this is clearly the best team in the National League despite losing two in a row to your woeful A's, Willie.
That's
But
right, baby.
still,
That's right.
hey, hey, I mean, but listen though, you clearly got the front runner and Ronald Acuna. You got a Cy Young Award guy candidate and Spencer Strider. They got the speed, the defense, the power, the bullpen. They have it all to win another championship. I just think they only have to add maybe like a left fielder and like a veteran starter, Willie. But I'm really liking these Atlanta Braves in the long run.
Yeah, and what you can take from the Braves right now, if we want to, is the fact that even with them being with the record that you just quoted, many Braves fans will consider that a win because the Braves have been notorious slow starters up until last year, and even last year to a degree. But the Mets got out so hot last year that they actually had to cool off, and the Braves were just playing steady baseball and was able to catch and then pass them. And you're right, man. They're loaded. They are loaded. I see that Mike Soroka is back from two what was it, Achilles tears?
Achilles.
Yeah. So
yeah.
he's back from that. And I've always said that once they get him back, along with Max Fried, and they can get another nice arm in there, they will be tough to deal with. Spencer Strider, a lot of people picked him to win the Cy Young Award this year, but he just could not face the Phillies because he gets killed by them. So yeah, man, the Braves, I wouldn't be too concerned about losing to the A's 2 out of 3. I mean, it happens. Yeah. That's our World Series, and I appreciate them letting us do that.
No doubt, no doubt. Brett, your thoughts?
I mean, Atlanta has been a consistent juggernaut in the National League for quite some time now, and they've always had that, consistency within their farm system and with their MLB lineup. The one thing that stands out for me with Atlanta, other than the fact that they have Sean Murphy now, Ronald Acuna is now probably the front runner for MVP, but it's their pitching depth. I mean, their pitching depth is so incredible compared to like Cleveland or Tampa Bay. You have Max Fried, obviously, who's a great pitcher. When he got hurt, you had guys like young Bryce Elder stepping up, Jared Schuster. They just called up their top pitching prospect, 20 years old, AJ Smith-Shawver. He zoomed right through the minors, and they think he could possibly be a Strider-like guy. Spencer Strider, he's my pick for Cy Young right now. I mean, he's started, 11 games. He's already struck out 106 batters, I believe. The only thing stopping him from striking out 300 guys is injury. Now, to be able to have the gem like that, plus all their depth, their bullpen's not bad either. But the Braves are just consistent all around, just have the lineup, the pitching depth to survive the whole season. No doubt about it. And
No doubt. And look, it's going to be very, very, very exciting. And because a John Scherer, hopefully I said it correctly, said go O's. Yeah, there we go. I need to do better at pronouncing people's names. I'm terrible. I need to laugh at myself for that one. But can we you got to give love to my hometown team of the Baltimore Orioles, man. A team 35-20 with a plus 32 run differential. This team is real. They're deep. It's centered around Cedric Mullins, although he went on the injury list. I mean, you got Austin Hayes, Gunnar Henderson, Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle, all finally starting to hit. Then you still got Felix Bautista and Yadier Cano in their bullpen, which is one of the best in baseball. I think improving the rotation is going to needs to be a little bit of a priority, Willie. But I do think that this team, when they got that front office, these people are forgetting that these are the individuals that built that built the Houston Astros for who they are. There was a couple people that were in that front office, and when they signed these guys a couple years ago, I said, watch out in a couple years. Watch how this team is going to be for real and provide a lot of. I'm not surprised that they're at how great that they're playing right now, Willie.
Yeah, and I'm not either, because what they did last year after trading their best player to the Astros, to your favorite team, Jeff, they ended up being better. They challenged for one of those playoff spots all the way up until like the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. And I believe that experience of almost getting there has been big for them. They're very talented. They can hit the ball out of the park. I think Cedric Mullins is my guy. Look, with everything that the Orioles used to be, the armpit of the American League, they are now the deodorant roll-on that everybody feels good about.
Facts.
Yeah. And one thing, I'm sorry about that. One thing that you guys both forgot was that the number 1 pick from the 2019 MLB draft, Adley Rutschman, there's no coincidence that the O's over their past 162 or probably more games since they've called him up, that they're a winning team. He has definitely been their heartbeat. Coming up, handling this pitching staff that is not necessarily top tier. They're about middle of the pack. They could use like a Shane Bieber at the deadline, which I could see them getting involved. But he's come up and displayed the best strike zone plate discipline. He's walking more than he strikes out. He's hitting for power. He's commanding, the team behind the plate. It's no surprise that the Orioles have gotten better, especially since Mike Elias, like you had mentioned, went over to the Orioles and brought his philosophy over there. Now they're drafting and developing talent very well. Gunnar Henderson's starting to hit a little bit better, and they have tons of top prospects in the minor leagues that are pretty close as well. So I can see this team being super competitive for the rest of the year as well. The only thing that kind of concerns me, like I just mentioned, is the pitching, is mid-tier, but I think they have enough offense to be able to have a strong rest of their season. And yeah, the Orioles are great.
Hey, no doubt. And we're going to do a little bit of a pivot here because like there's kind of like this, the one race that I was curious in seeing is in the NL West, specifically with San Diego and all the money that they have spent. And right now they're 7.5 games back, 26-30. And just some of their stats have just been absolutely just, they're only batting .222, which is 29th, and runs per game at 4.18 at 23rd. And their on base percentage is 21st, slugging percentage 25th, hits per game 29th. Home runs is still respectable, 65. ERA is at 3.88, which is 9th. I'm gonna throw it to you, Brett, real quick, because I know you're a Rockies fan. Like, what is going on in San Diego? Like, when you think about all the money that they have spent, this team could get it together. There's still time, but they're just not playing up to the type of potential that they could based at the top half of their lineup.
Absolutely. The top half of their lineup is loaded with talent. Machado, although he's hurt now, has been underperforming all season. Juan Soto, he's been playing good, but not as great as he was in Washington. The ballpark could be a major factor with that. But they do have some holes in their lineup. The reason why they're hitting at such a low average and getting on base, when you have a guy like Rougned Odor in your lineup, or Austin Nola, or Matt Carpenter, and they're really struggling, it brings the team down. And the problem with the Padres is their pitching is good, but it's not great. They don't necessarily have, the number 1 ace. They do have Darvish, Musgrove, and all that. But they're an example, and AJ Preller's notorious for this ever since, he got over there to San Diego. They're notorious for trading a lot of their young talent to try to win now. And that strategy doesn't necessarily always work in the long term. And now they don't have a whole lot of depth surrounding their lineup, especially when they get hurt. So they could struggle quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run and come back because of the talent that they have. But the early numbers have not been good so far, that's for sure. When you're hitting 222, that's what the A's are hitting. So that's not good.
Heck yeah.
And what and Willie, like we talked about, before the show, before you got on, we talked about the pitching and how there's going to be such a high demand for pitching, but there's going to be a very low supply. And just overall, man, how are you feeling about these San Diego Padres?
Well, I had them in the World Series against the Blue Jays, and I had Soto as my
okay.
NL MVP. I think there's plenty enough time for them to right the ship. I do agree with you. I do agree with you in the fact that Brett, that ballpark, Petco Park, it's not hitter friendly whatsoever. That may have an impact on what's going on with Juan Soto. They're gonna miss Machado for as long as he's gonna be out, and then when he comes back, he's got to get back in the rhythm. We know that Machado is very, very good on the corner with the glove. I think they would be okay, but the Diamondbacks are not going anywhere. They're not. The Dodgers are going to still be the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are going to be the big brother for the Padres for as long as, I don't know. And I hate the Dodgers too, by the way. But what they need to do, man, is they need to look, they at one point had the most expensive infield in all of Major League Baseball. And Brett, you're 100% right. That team is very top heavy. Not a lot of depth. Yu Darvish, you really don't know what you're going to get from him as your number one. Blake Snell, is he still there?
Yeah,
he is there.
So quality starts.
Yeah, he's not nearly the Blake Snell that he was when he was in Tampa. And Musgrove is kind of the same way. You just don't know what you're going to get from that dude.
Yeah, Blake Snell has definitely underperformed. I mean, he had that one great season in Tampa where he got the Cy Young, and then every other season since, he's been wildly inconsistent, which has kind of exposed what kind of pitcher he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
Facts. And just getting to the prospects part is there's this, and Brett, I really want to talk about this one. This prospect is 16-year-old catcher Ethan Salas. He's the younger brother of Twins prospect Jose Salas. Signed for a record highest bonus of $5.6 million. He turned 17 this month. He was actually in minor league camp and actually caught a rehab start. Willie, for your boy Joe Musgrove, has really soft hands and agility at the plate already. This guy, they better not trade him. He's as good as advertised so far, but to be 16 years old, to be playing and to be in single A right now is going to be very, very, very exciting. Very, very exciting prospect.
Incredibly impressive. I mean, the last 16-year-old, I believe, to play in single A in the minor leagues was Julio Urias, actually, I believe. And he turned out pretty good. But this kid is a phenom. I mean, he's the top, player in his international class. He was one of the best catching prospects in recent memory. I mean, Jose Salas, his older brother, he was involved in the trade with Pablo Lopez and Luis Arraez, which has worked out for Minnesota, actually. Miami, not so bad either. But the kid has a feel for the strike zone, shows the ability to hit the ball to all fields. He has good raw power, and the game power will probably progress, obviously, with time. On defense, he shows plus potential, which is really good because he's got soft hands, blocking ability, and receiving skills. To be 16 years old and hitting in single A, and his first two at bats, I believe yesterday he actually got a hit both at bats, which is incredibly impressive.
Let me on the show.
Sorry.
That's all good.
Which has been incredibly impressive. Now, obviously, when it comes to, catching prospects or any teenage prospects, there's a high, risk and lots of volatility and variance, especially with the demand of the position physically. But teams and the Padres are really confident in this kid, and they're saying he's one of the best prospects since Wander Franco, since they got him from a young age. So it's going to be exciting to see his development. I really hope they don't rush him. I hope that they let him polish up each level. But we'll see. It's definitely exciting for the Padres, he is, eons away from the big leagues, but it gives the fans something to be excited about.
Hey, it's going to be very exciting. But Willie, your thoughts, and then we'll do each one player piece, or talk about a couple other fantasy, or not fantasy prospects. But Willie, your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I mean, he's 16 years old and he's going to be playing ball with and against grown men. I just hope that for his mental and his spirit is strong enough, and that he has the right foundation around him that can help him in terms of being around these grown men. And then, like you said, Brett, hopefully they won't rush him up, which I don't think they will. They know what they have. The last thing you want to do at that particular time or with that age is rush a kid and then break his confidence, and he never lives up to what everybody expects him to be. So I just hope that the pressure continues to make diamonds as opposed to bursting pipes.
Facts.
Yep.
But hey, but Brett, I know you're definitely excited about getting some prospects. What were maybe one or two prospects that that really kind of stood out that are either getting called up? We're seeing a lot of players getting called up, especially with the Guardians, right? With their injuries. You're looking at the Dodgers with their injuries. A lot of guys are having to move up rather early than you normally anticipated. But who are two guys that stand out in your opinion?
Yeah, and it's ironic that you mentioned the Guardians because I'm actually going to bring up one of their pitching prospects. Now, Cleveland has been just a notorious pitching lab. They constantly churn out good pitchers. They, like I mentioned earlier, they got Logan Allen now, Tanner Bybee, who are some really good prospects. But one guy I really want to talk about who's really rose through the minors really quick and could get the next call to the big leagues is Gavin Williams, who's a right-handed pitcher for their AAA team right now. I believe the Columbus Clippers, if I'm not mistaken. He has just mowed down the competition since he was drafted in the first round out of East Carolina, or I think he's East Carolina. And he's 6'6". He throws about 100 miles an hour, has wicked breaking stuff, and he made He made them look really bad. He also is making AAA pretty quick work of AAA. He's got 11, 12 Ks per nine and walks maybe 3 or 2 per nine. But this is a guy that's going to come into the big leagues and contribute right away when he gets called up. So that's why I'm kind of confident in the Guardians with their possible outlook as well.
And Willie, when I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Brett.
Yeah, I was just going to say Gavin Williams, if you're doing fantasy and you need an arm, he's a guy to definitely put on your watch list. That's one of the players.
And Willie, when we think about it, you think about these Guardians, they were the youngest team to make the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. And with all these pitchers, they're going to be around for a very, very, very long time. And something special is brewing in Cleveland, Willie.
Yeah, and I like that choice, Brett, because this is something that we need to think about as well. As good as Gavin Williams is or is going to be, and particularly if the Guardians continue to struggle and are out of it and become sellers, you can possibly look at this kid coming in and a Shane Bieber moving out, or even a Sticks McKenzie moving out, Aaron Savali, who has struggled. So yeah, that's the piece of it that I want to touch on, because he's going to push somebody out of Cleveland somewhere else.
Shane Bieber. I think it's definitely going to be Shane Bieber. He's got to pitch a little bit better. He's been kind of hurting my fantasy team a little bit. Shane Bieber, if you're listening, get your ish together, buddy. But before we wrap up, what's one more guy that you're thinking about, and then Willie, we'll give you a player or two that might be standing out for prospect perspective.
In a nutshell, this kid is definitely a top 5 prospect now. He's rose through the minors. He's been pushed pretty quickly. He's pretty young. He's 21 years old. But I wouldn't sleep on the Reds. I mean, the Reds are starting to develop some really good prospects. They've called up Matt McLain and Spencer Steer. They've done really well. But the one kid I want to talk about is Elly De La Cruz.
Yes.
He's top in AAA right now. And I wasn't as sold on him maybe last year or the year before, because he was walking about 5% of the time and striking out about 30. So I was kind of concerned. And then this year coming into AAA, he's now walking at about a 13% rate with a 26% strikeout rate, which means that he's starting to put good at-bats together and starting to mature at the plate. This is a guy that could probably be like a Fernando Tatis Jr. light, kind of, a kid that hits for a lot of power and hits for some average, but is also pretty fast, and he's a good fielder as well. So I expect them to call him up, either from, this next month because he's really raking, or possibly towards September, depending on his development. But Ellie De La Cruz, definitely. I mean, his exit velocity is amazing, and he's just trending upwards.
Awesome. Willie, your thoughts on it? If there's a prospect that stands out to you, and then we'll conclude.
Not one particular prospect. I just want to give props and respect really to all these young kids that are on the cusp of making their dreams come true. And I just feel like at this current time, with baseball being what it is, the recipe is right for baseball players and prospects to have success a lot quicker than what we're used to seeing from back in the past. I mean, and just to go to somebody that's already in the show, Texas Rangers, their young rookie Young is actually killing it. So what I love, and it kind of reminds me of our thought process when it came to quarterbacks in the NFL. It used to be where you had to sit an NFL quarterback or rookie quarterback for a couple years before they actually had a chance to really do anything. Well, now that's not the case. And I think it's because quarterbacks that are coming out of college in the NFL is starting to tailor offenses more to the college game. And just like now, MLB is doing some of the same things by tailoring some of the rules, even from a pitching standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, all the way to the hitters. So I think it's given an opportunity for players or prospects to become a lot more successful a lot faster.
Hey, facts. And I like the service rule manipulation that times of service manipulation that they got rid of. I don't remember the specifics of it, but do you remember the specifics that they changed in that rule? I don't remember offhand.
So the service time manipulation, I don't think really has changed. You still have the Super 2 deadline. You still have all that stuff where, if you hold back a player, you get an extra year out of them. But one thing they have changed recently, especially when it comes to prospects, is that teams are starting to get incentives from the MLB for promoting their prospects quicker. And if they get, say, I believe it's if your prospect wins Rookie of the Year, you get an additional draft pick, like a competitive ballot.
Awesome. Hey, guys, baseball, all great, phenomenal conversation. Willie, again, thank you for coming on. And Brett, thank you for coming on. I love talking baseball. Let's get back at this in like a week or two, because I definitely want to highlight more baseball, because I think that as the divisional races start to heat up, there's definitely going to be a lot of exciting things. And then I'm excited. I'm excited. It's great. It's a great day to be a baseball fan. But as we like to always do, Brett, did you want to give your Twitter and all your information? And Willie will then we'll let you give a shout out to your stuff.
Yeah, and I appreciate, you inviting me onto the show and being able to share some insight. I hope I was able to provide some good knowledge for the listeners and for you guys as well. My Twitter handle, it says in my my picture right there, Coors Field effect, obviously because, Coors Field has that effect on the baseball and the hitters. That's my Twitter account. Go ahead and follow me. I follow back always. Especially sports. I love talking sports, and I look forward to coming onto the show again.
Awesome. Thank you for having on, Willie.
At Shakeback Media Group on Twitter, SHKBKMEDIA BK, or I'm sorry, GRP. Shakeback Media Group on Twitter. I got hashtag Brothers of Baseball show that's dedicated to just baseball, and about 7,000 other shows that I'm just dabbling into. So make sure y'all come holler at your boy.
Fun stuff. Well, gentlemen, appreciate your time. I know that the NBA Finals is on, so I look at it. Looks like it's getting a blowout here. Denver's kind of rolling with it. But hey, to all of our listeners, to all of our fans, thank you for all the love and support. We really appreciate you. We will be back next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, for episode 88 as we march to episode 100. We already got some things getting lined up. We're getting close to the century mark, which I'm really excited about. Stay tuned and be blessed.
Thank you.
I haven't seen anything like that. 8 home runs in the game. The Nats beat them 10-6. Dodgers got some problems in that bullpen, man.
We'll talk about the NBA Finals a little bit. Miami, maybe they can find their...
Miami's going to still win that series, man. Experience will beat youth in any way you want to put it.
Okay.
I think Riley's Spoelstra, man, is unbelievable, and
All right. Hold on
Denver's
to
never
that.
been there.
Hold on to those thoughts because we
Yeah.
want to get to that, because I want to get into this bigger topic, and I've been prepping it a little bit too. I mean, everything's big. Everything we're doing today has big topics to it. Okay. The NBA wise, we got a lot to talk about there. And, I think the Mile High, maybe Miami has to figure that out a little bit. It's hard. It really is hard, especially.
Well, grueling 7-game series, man. Then they got to fly to Denver. These guys been sitting on their ass for a week and a half.
Yeah, 19-point deficit for the Heat against the Nuggets. And let's move on. So we're talking about baseball, LA, Dodger pride. Okay, folks, if you haven't seen this story going out, this is probably the heaviest one so far. There's a lot going on. A lot of people have their positions on it. And I think overall people didn't bother by it. Even some of the Dodger players were okay. They're just going to, because the Dodgers, I worked for them for 8 years. I witnessed it. They're very diverse. They put their hands in everything. And I know personally the person who orchestrated the very first, celebration of pride at a baseball game was at Dodger Stadium himself. So great thing, great move, blah, blah, blah. But now it's gone too far. It's going too far, folks, because now you're bothering Dodger players on the roster.
Yeah.
Are upset. Matter of fact, it's not because what you're all wanted to talk about. It's because it's now pushing the envelope in different areas, and now they're being attacked. And they have their own religious beliefs, okay? Let's start off with this one right away. Let's go to the top. Clayton Kershaw, Dodgers, right up the top. Look at this. So the Dodger upset. He's upset, Kershaw. Pride Night fiasco as they announced a Christian faith event. And Kershaw said it's okay. But, Kershaw said he's a, devoted Christian.
Yeah.
Bible guy and all that. And he said, that's cool. We're going to do one with the Bible and Christian Day. And we're going to have crosses and, Jesus, right? For baseball. Or maybe they'll put something on their hats with a cross on it. Okay. Right. So, count the Dodgers legend and future Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw among those upset with the team's, bungling of their Pride Night. Okay. Because what happened is this, folks. I'm going to show you something. Let's see. Where is that little photograph? Okay. I had a photo for you to show. I have to throw it back in there. Okay. So the Dodgers invited all the community people for Pride, and they've been doing this for a while. Okay. And they're the leader of it all. Okay.
Yeah.
And hope for it. But they also invited a very anti-Christ, anti-religion, anti-Catholic group, a hate group. It really is.
Yeah.
And I was going to show you a photo. I'll find it when you talk, and I'll pop it on the screen for you. That crossed the line because at first they said, no, you're not going to come. We have to. And then the community itself decided, hey, let's get in on it and say, no, we're going to pull out of this Dodgers if you do not let this group get in and be a part of the festivities. Okay. That alone upset the Dodger players. There's a few Dodger players, and there are one more key factor, folks. And I'm going to throw this in before we go any further. Where is that? The Dodger fans. Do you know the major makeup of Dodger fans are, folks? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Mark.
Hispanics?
Yep, Hispanics. And they are Christians.
Yeah.
They are Catholics, in many ways. And, when you start putting stuff out there, it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. So now the Dodgers have put themselves in the middle of something, unfortunately. And they did it to themselves, Mark. Your thoughts?
Well, you know where I've always stood. And I think in life, you got to be true to yourself first before you can be true to anybody else. And what I mean by that is, you can't easily be bought. I mean, and you have to take a stand in what you believe in. You can understand or try to understand what people's thoughts process or whatever is out there. But I think once you cross the line and go against what you believe in, then you're going through uncharted waters.
I agree.
And I'm born in the country. My faith lies in one thing and one thing only, and it's the guy above. He brought me into this world. He'll take me out of this world. And that's the way I look at it. and everybody can have their own way of doing things. I've got good friends that don't believe in the big man. I got people that question, well, how do you know he's a man or whatever? Anybody can question whatever they want, but I think what it is today, it just seems like it's attack on, religion as far as what you believe in, and if you don't believe in something everybody else believes in, then they look at you different. That's all well said and done, because I think when you stay firm in what you believe in, he provides.
Well,
and I think what the Dodgers did is you can't have your ice cream, you can't have your cherries and your nuts and your whipped cream on top. You more or less have to take a stand on one side or the other. And when you take all these stands, people look at you different. But if you stay consistent with something and you draw the line on that, people might not like it, but they'll respect where you're coming from.
What I keep hearing for the last couple of days is it's not about politics. Folks, if you're listening to this, and I know some of you have made comments a lot today, because a lot of news has come out about this is politics. And this is sports, and you're adding this in. Now, the Dodgers do a great job, once again, of being very diverse with a lot of different communities. I've witnessed it for 8 years. And I tell you, they are really, and most baseball teams do a good job of that. So, but this is something that got sticky. Okay. So baseball execs should know firsthand experience. It's best not to go too far on a limb on a woke politics thing. And if you don't think this is woke, folks, then you got to wake up to this. Okay. I know a lot of gay people who are not into the rainbow stuff, sabotaging the rainbow flag and what it really stands for, and went into the political side of it. Okay. And this is a fact. Okay. Now, if you want to make most fans happy, you better make sure that everybody is included, because you have a Hispanic community that pays a lot of money to watch those Dodgers. They're the massive, massive population for this. And at one point, does it get too sticky with them? You have watched how this is not hate on the other side, folks. It's being pushed in their faces way too much. But when you throw this back in there, and this is a hate group, folks, and they're going to act like they're not. Okay. So you're telling me that they're hating on a religion where this country is based on freedom of religion and everything else. But you're going to allow this where Dodger players on the field and opposing players and fans in the audience, knowing that this group is being permitted back onto the field because of political pressure, because the Dodgers backed off and said, no, we can't have you. It's too much. And then they backpedaled on it and they put them back in. And now Kershaw and other Dodger players and other people are speaking up to this. This is a hate thing. Dodgers got a problem here. And we've seen this happen before. This is just about being fair also. But do not bring hate. And now the other side talks about, Mark, how it's hating on them. But let's talk about this particular group then. Because I've witnessed pride. I witnessed the Dodgers doing it. I have my good friend basically introduced that to baseball. Right. It was well done. Okay? It's a day of recognition. And as long as they recognize everything else and everybody else too. And Kershaw wanted that religion stay for himself and feels like it's been dissolved with interest. All right. There we have it. That's one part,
I think in today's society, I think to believe in God is very unique, the way the world's going today. That's just my personal opinion on it. So to thank him for what he does for me on a daily basis when I go and lay my head down at night, I know, I can, be a fool in the morning and do crazy shows during the day. But at night, I know who drives my bus. And, it's kind of like sports teams, Cornelius, when you look at it, it's never a problem, when people all like different teams until that one guy comes up and says, well, no, you got to like my team. My team's better than yours. And he doesn't say it once or twice. He keeps reiterating it like 500 times. And then you kind of just take a stand and say, you know what? I've heard this. I don't need to go around this guy anymore. And that's basically what's happening is you start to tune it out a little. You kind of try to feel what it is. But I think the most important thing in today's society is whatever you believe in is true to yourself, and that's more or less it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm not going to sit here and judge people on what they are, but I know what I believe in, and I'm not going to, you know, backpedal, or I'm not going to get bought out on something that I believe in, and
Yeah,
that's the
Mark,
way I look at it.
Dodger pitcher. This is he's a
Yeah,
big part of that
he's
team.
another Christian. He's a Christian guy there. That's it. That's Blake Trinan.
Yep. He releases a statement against the anti-Christian group. And that's the anti-Christian group is what I showed you earlier. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's bothering the Dodger players. And some of them are quiet about it. But, you know, when you have a big player stepping out like Kershaw, we're talking one of the greatest pitchers or the greatest pitcher in Dodger history saying enough is enough. Now you have a Christian hate group being let back in, and then now it bothers them. Okay. And now they have a right to that. But then they're going to get backlash for speaking up. Isn't it amazing how this works? Right.
Well,
here's another one for you.
It's your amendment. I mean, you have a right to, I believe, what is it, the Second Amendment? You got a freedom of speech.
Right.
So I don't understand, you know, everybody's got their freedom, you know, to say.
But the Dodgers, Mark, the Dodgers can't flip-flop like this too. And if they want to bring a hate group in, that's how Christians are going to feel about it.
Well, it always loses its luster when you flip flop. So if they take a stand from the beginning and stuck with it, then you wouldn't get into the flip flop. You know, if I'm standing here tooting my horn, I love my Pirates and I love the Padres because I covered them for years, and then all of a sudden I disband those two teams and I run with a front runner like I have some friends with hockey teams. All of a sudden they're Florida Panther fans. I go, well, wait a minute, do you know anybody from '96? And you know, but so that's what you got in today's society. I mean, you got to stick with something, be true to it, peaks and valleys. And, you know, hey, you know, we've talked about this before, Cornelius. Everybody looks at a goal in life. It's never the goal. It never was the goal. It's the journey to get you to the goal and how you act on the journey.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we don't need politics. And again, when we have politics in sports, and folks, if you don't think this is a political thing and a woke thing, then you got to understand that you got to wake up to this too. Here's a Toronto pitcher. Okay. Boyk, who's a MLB pitcher who went viral over an airline incident with his pregnant wife, right? Target boycotts, you know, with this is, I mean, if you can't speak up and just be yourself, I mean, and what's happening is now the other sides continue to speak up, and now the other side doesn't like it because, wait a minute, you can't say anything about it. So I love the fact that you can talk about it and people speak up for themselves. Okay. I think the Dodgers made a mistake by letting a hate group towards Christians allowed onto that field.
Yeah.
For pride.
You know, it's funny. And when you defend yourself, and I always say this, hey, it's the voice of the voiceless. You know, that's the way I look at it. Everybody, you know, they might not like it, and I don't care. Everybody's got their own opinion on things, and I think if you stay consistent with anything, then they'll understand where you're coming from.
So if you don't like some Catholic or Christian beliefs and things like that, but then you want to bring out hate and do things like that, now you're going to bother the other side who have now spoken up, and we're talking star power players speaking. I mean, this is not over yet. This is going to continue, and I wonder what the Dodgers are going to do from this point on too. Right? All right, Mark. In about 10 minutes, okay, I'm bringing in Wally Cahill. We're going to talk NASCAR. We're going to do some debating stuff. I want you in on it too.
Anybody named Wally is going to be part of a NASCAR thing.
That's funny.
He's going to bring his Red Man chewing tobacco in. He's probably got his NASCAR off to the side. You know, I like these kind of guys.
Well, just be ready because Wally's got funny things. He's always, anyway. Well, I don't know what's going to happen next when I put him on the screen, but that's okay. We're not worrying about broadcasting and FCC stuff here.
Yeah.
All right. This is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are in first place in their division and overall the best record in the National League. There's the records. They're even with the Dodgers. And we told you folks, the Diamondbacks are the best team in baseball when it comes to small ball, which fits right into the new rule changes and everything else with everything about the clock, everything about, you know, the shift, everything that they've changed and put back and got back to normal, got back to baseball. The Diamondbacks roster right now is showing that it fits perfectly to this, and they were ready, and they are shining, and they have really good pitching, and this is not going away. The Diamondbacks are not going away. So you look at all those teams, right? Even your Pirates are still up in the top.
Number 6.
And it's not the greatest record, Mark, but the Pirates, but they rebounded pretty well after a rough stretch. But I think the Diamondbacks at this point, looking at that list, have a great shot at the pennant chase because of the National League doesn't look too strong.
Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment in there is the San Diego Padres, man. They got to be a big disappointment.
Yes, their pitching, Mark. It really is coming down to their pitching, and they didn't really do a good enough job. They thought they had great veterans who done great things in the past, but they're tired, they're older, and they're not.
We kind of took care of your boy there that killed the seagull or whatever. He pitched the first game in Pittsburgh, and that Zach kid, and we kind of nailed him on Friday night, and then kind of blew it that Saturday game. But we got to get you now in Arizona. All
right, Mark, we got about 8 minutes before Wally and his world comes in. This is the NBA Finals. The score is early first quarter, like a 13-point lead for Denver. So Miami's made a little run. They went on an 8-row run. Denver called timeout. So let's see if Miami may have found their legs. But here's some really cool things, okay? This is the 10th time in the NHL and NBA history that two teams from the same city are playing in the finals. Not one time have they both won the title overall.
Wow.
Right? So Miami Heat and the Florida Panthers playing down in Miami, or that they got a shot at it. Okay, so we start with the Heat and Panthers, which is this year. And then we got the Warriors and Sharks. I know San Jose, Golden, but we'll put it in there.
Yeah, San Jose got beat by Pittsburgh that year.
They got swept.
Yep.
Or I think it was, right? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. But Nets and the Devils, which was the year the Nets, I think they got swept, but the Devils won this. I think they won that Stanley Cup.
Yeah, the Knicks lost to the Rockets, and the Rangers beat Vancouver.
Right, you remember that one? And then we had this 1980 Dr. J and the Phillies of the 76ers and the Flyers, who lost to the Islanders, and the Flyers won 35 straight games that season, and lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. And then we have the Celtics and Bruins. That happened a couple of times. Celtics and Bruins, and I think that the Celtics won, the Bruins lost. Then the Knicks and the Rangers again in 1972. Knicks lose to the Lakers in 5, and the Rangers, I think they got swept by Boston that year. And then
kind of weird how they had that, Boston, and there was no like West and East back then. It was just kind of when you looked at the divisions, they were there was one year, I think, if you remember, I think it was Montreal, the Kings, Penguins, Detroit, and Colorado all in a division.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one, you don't see it on the screen, is 1957. Celtics and Bruins again ended up doing it one more time. So the Celtics and Bruins had 3 chances to pull off this feat, couldn't do it. But that's going back to, the 70s and stuff like that.
The Penguins were instrumental in the number 5 and the number 2 years.
But that's a cool stat. So the Heat and the Panthers have a shot of doing something never done in sports between basketball and hockey, is winning the titles from the same city itself. That's pretty cool.
Hey, I gotta tell you real quick, they canceled Friday night fireworks tomorrow, Dodger Stadium, with the Yankees and Dodgers. Right. I can imagine why they did that. Probably all the fights in the stands, but in 2 weeks, the Giants come out here. Yeah, get a load of this. In 2 weeks, the Giants are out here on a weekend. And then the week after that, the Astros come here on a weekend.
Right. That's so funny.
Oh, my God.
Well, I've been to Dodger Yankee games in Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I have too. Oh, my God.
I don't know, but if you're a Diamondback fan, you're going to root for the Yankees because and the Yankees get a little help too. They got some 3 starters back in the lineup. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, I wanted to go, but I'm going to save it for the Ohtani games and with Anaheim. Going to Anaheim.
The Yankees come to Arizona to play the D-backs, or Arizona goes there.
They go to New York. Yeah. They go to New York. They'll come back here next year. You know where I'm going to be. All right. Oh my gosh. So my screen got cut off a little bit. I'm sorry, guys. But do you know that the Miami Heat, as I put that guy on the screen there, Miami Heat's roster. Miami Heat roster. Do you know how many guys are on that roster that are free agents?
12.
Never
12.
drafted.
Yeah,
Never
12.
drafted by the Heat. Like Jimmy Butler came from another team. You get it? So the Heat have put together a team, and the players that were, it's Pat Riley. It's the Pat Riley effect, folks. He did it with the Lakers. He did it with the Knicks, with Anthony Mason and John Starks of the worlds and things like that. Okay, and then he goes to Miami, and I think I got a Pat Riley number here. Look at this. Look at Pat. you really got to believe he's the one. So, you got three, Miami, you got, when he was a player.
NBA
right?
Finals. Unbelievable.
19th, man. 19 times this guy has been associated with the finals itself, okay? And now he's got a six, right? With he's got the Lakers. He had the Knicks. Oh wait, did he ever?
Who needs LeBron James now?
Right, he had the Knicks once in the finals. That's right,
Yeah,
and he had a bunch of times.
If Starks hit his shots, he would have won in New York.
He would have won in New York. Yeah, absolutely. Man, you remember.
Yeah,
you totally remember.
I love Riles. I've read his book. I mean, I've never interviewed him, and he just, to me, is one of the greatest coaches, man.
So the Heat were founded 35 years ago and have now reached 7 NBA finals, 20% of all seasons since 1988.
And you remember 1988, Ronnie Cycli and all those guys.
Yeah, I left Miami in 1988.
Bimbo Coles. Oh my God. Yeah, that was, oh my God, was that a team?
What else do I got here?
I think Ron Rothstein was the coach.
I think you're right. Absolutely. And the Heat are making their 7th NBA Finals appearance this century, second most of any team. Can you name the 3 teams that, besides Miami, is number 1 on that list? Is it the Warriors with their dynasty run, the Spurs,
I think it's
or the Lakers as number 1 team? The Heat are second, making their 7th NBA final appearance, right?
I think it's the Spurs.
I know the answer. I didn't want to put it on the screen, but it's the Lakers, actually. It is the Lakers. I mean, we're going back to like the year 2000. So it's you got the Kobe and Shaq, and then you got the Kobe by himself stuff, and then you have recently with LeBron and things like. Anyway, okay, a lot there. All right, let's get that off the screen here. We've got a few minutes before Wally comes in, and look at this thing right here. The Heat are. Let's get the score as we were looking at the screen. The Heat are down by 16. They just can't catch up, so they got themselves in a hole. So that's going to level off in game 2 when the Heat get their game on track. It's gonna level off. But this is a stat right here where the Heat finals appearances, right, since 2006. These are the 7. We're waiting on the result of this. They've won 3 titles out of it, as you can tell. And can you name the 2006 2-star players for the Heat?
Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal.
There you go. That's it.
I kind of kept my eye on the Heat from afar, and when Riley got over there, I remember covering a game and out here when the Heat were out here when Stan Van Gundy was let go when they got back to Miami, and Riley took over. I think it was December of that year, and they went to the finals.
Oh wow!
And beat the Mavs.
All right, Mark, I got 2 more for you here before we bring in Wally. This is the first time since 1990 the NBA Finals will not feature a single All-NBA first-team selection player. Now that's a big shift. Big shift. That's 30 plus years ago, right? That's a huge shift. And what does it say? It just hasn't happened, right? And is this where the game is being played? Are we satisfied with it? Also, this, Mark, Heat and Panthers can make history, like I said, playing for both championships, folks. We're looking for the hockey playoff start.
Well, you remember what happened if you were in Florida, 1996, the last time the Panthers, it was Van Beesbrook, it was the Rats, and they got beat by the Colorado Avalanche.
Yes, I remember that one too. So we'll come back to hockey a little bit later. But the Panthers, they get the game 1 coming up against Las Vegas. Vegas is rocking and rolling.
I
with
haven't
that.
been to the T-Mobile in Vegas, but my buddy was telling me he does news out there. Said tickets are going for $400, cheapest ticket to see the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and you figure a lot of them, those big gambler dudes coming in, doing their thing. All right. Okay, let's pop this on the screen. There's a Formula One Grand Prix kind of car, right? And then you have the NASCAR, right? It looks like is that a Chevy? Looks like a Chevy. I don't know. I don't know. Wally probably knows by the headlights,
Yeah.
But anyway, let's bring in Wally. I don't know, Wally, can you see that? I don't know. It looks like a Chevy to me. Wally Cahill, who I've known for many years, who covers NASCAR. He's a car guy. Does his own car show. He drives cars around, beautiful cars, and does critiques on it. That's his gig. But he's been around the NASCAR scene for a very long time, and he knows his stuff about this. And we want to talk about this, folks, because I'm a little confused. As I leave it on the screen, I'll bring Wally in a second here. Is Grand Prix is getting all this love, and I've been to Grand Prix, Mark.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to get this off the screen because I want you to see my eyes. Because I watch NASCAR. And NASCAR, I'm like, you watch everything in front of you. But Grand Prix, it's like, and that's it. All right, and you start drinking again. That's like, yes, absolutely, Mark. And it's like, you've been to the one in Long Beach, and it's just like,
I've been there.
You're really watching racing. You just get a freaking loud. I like Grand Prix. The cars are cool, but if it's not the Indy 500, I don't know what else I don't know. I don't get it. But
I like to sit in the hairpin.
All right, let's bring in Wally.
As they're coming around that curve, man. Oh man, it's unbelievable. The Long Beach Grand Prix. Look at him.
Right,
Look at
Wally.
Wally. He's got a tan going, man.
You know it. We live in Arizona.
Hey, Wally. All right. So, Wally, first up, just your critique and debate on is it NASCAR or is it Grand Prix? I know you like NASCAR, but you love cars. So I'm a little curious to see where you go. And but for a spectator, I think it's horrible to watch Grand Prix. I think it's horrible. All right.
Okay. So, Brad, first of all, thanks for having me on. Second of all, I agree with you. I'm really not a Grand Prix guy. I like open wheel. I'm a big motorsports fan, no matter 2 wheels, 4 wheels, whatever it is. If it goes fast and burns fuel, I like it. The F1, the Formula One guys, I'm really, really impressed with their technology. If you look at their steering wheel costs like $1 million. Just their steering wheel. It's got that much going on with it. So it's really, really kind of cool there. Now, if you compare that and you hit on it right there, when you go to a Grand Prix race, you're looking all around. You're looking at the umbrella girls. That's what you're looking at. I know what you're looking at. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But if you go to a NASCAR race, you got to look out for the drunks, man. I'll tell you, elbows get flying. Somebody makes a pass and the beer goes flying. You're liable to wear it. In fact, hold on here. Mark mentioned something about NASCAR. There we go. Now we can talk some NASCAR. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
but yeah, all kidding aside, NASCAR is really, really up their game with the new car. You're seeing a lot of new drivers out there. I don't know if you guys follow it or not, but Ross Chastain, the #1 car, pulled that move on Denny Hamlin at the end of last year. That was like a video game move. Where he just rode the wall and he passed like 11 people and beat Denny Hamlin to the finish line that put him in the finals here in Phoenix. So it was really cool.
Real quick on that one is when I saw that, it almost felt like, did he do something illegal? Like it was just, it was like, I'm serious. It was like a Michael Jordan basketball move. I'm like, what? Like they're gonna inspect this car. Like something just didn't look right. But I guess it's all legal. Everybody's playing by the same rules, right? So
right. And they actually they came up with a new rule to keep that from happening again. It's called the Chastain rule. And frankly, I think it was a pretty badass move myself because I would have never seen that happen. He said he learned it on iRacing on the video game, and it works on that. So he tried it on the track and it worked. And I don't think they should have made a rule against it, man, because can you imagine 2 or 3 of them coming down for the finish on that on a big race?
Oh,
Yeah,
I know
let,
it,
let me
Mark.
let me ask you, Wally. You've covered the sport for quite a while. You know the ins and outs, experience and knowledge. Who's the next crop of Mario Andretti's or Al Unsers? Because
Oh
to me,
man.
those guys set the bar.
Well, okay. So first of all, you don't need to look any further than Team Penske, whether it's NASCAR or IndyCar for the Memorial Day weekend. Roger did well. Roger did very well. So when you talk about IndyCar, Joseph Newgarden, right there, the winner of the Indy 500. Known him for about 8 or 9 years now. And the one thing, I mean, you always see him. He's a nice guy, does great interviews and everything. But what never really comes across on TV is the guy's sense of humor. The guy has a hilarious sense of humor, and I'm a joker, and he outdoes me all the time. So it's pretty cool with that. If you look at that, so you also want to look maybe at the Herta kid there, Connor Daly also. So Colton Herta's dad, Brian Herta, and I actually worked in the same area in Southern California like 30 years ago. We used to run into him all the time. And that was before Colton was out there. And that's a young up-and-comer. In fact, let's make it to, goodness, let's talk to Ari Leyendyke. His Ari Leyendyke Jr., you don't see him around anymore. You're talking about the Unsers. We lost both Bobby and Al last year. Big hit to me personally. Been in jail with Bobby. Right. Al was a good friend, and Bobby's son, Robbie, was Rookie of the Year in IndyCar racing. I believe it was 97 or 98. But the name didn't carry him through. I'm not sure exactly if he just didn't get a ride or what happened, but they come and go. They come and go.
All right.
Real fast. If I could throw one more in there.
Okay.
The Indy 500 this past Sunday, guys, it was so extraordinary. And then what happened at the end, man, the tire flew over the grandstand and they said it hit a car. I didn't realize they drive in Indianapolis. I thought maybe it hit a farmhouse or something out there.
Now, depending on which wall it went, what stands it went into, you're talking, kind of busting back to your last segment there. You're talking about the religious freedom and everything. God was looking out there, man, because a tire going 80, 100 miles an hour going into the stands, and it weighs probably 90 pounds. If that would hit anybody or even come close to hitting somebody, it would have done some serious damage.
All right, well, Las Vegas, they've been pumping this up. It's Vegas showing its true colors. It's a major sports town. This is like it's got a little oval part of the track besides Grand Prix running through the streets down, the boulevard, Las Vegas Boulevard and things like that. But it's got a little oval. It looks like, a 3 and a 4 turn or something like that, and a little bankment to it. So you gotta go high or low. I'm curious. So, but the point is on this is the attention it's getting, the global attention, the domestically here, nationally here is pretty good. I believe this helps NASCAR and they feed off each other because racing is just racing, like you said, no matter what wheels, what you got running. It amps it up a little bit. So, and not too far from this location is the NASCAR track, in Vegas too. So, but your thoughts on Vegas doing the Grand Prix itself and how it benefits the race game?
Okay, so thoughts on Vegas doing the F1 racing there? Great idea. Great. Any road course racing, IndyCar, Grand Prix, whatever it is. I think I'm up for it. In fact, when we tried to get IndyCar to do a street race here in Phoenix, and we ran into some political pressure from Phoenix International Raceway and Sheriff Joe at the time, you can pretty much bet the same thing is going on in Vegas right now. The main thing is the date. Is it up against any, or is it close to any of the NASCAR dates? And don't forget out there at that NASCAR track, they also have a 4-wide drag strip out there. So NHRA comes there twice a year. So you got to kind of play with those dates too. But these guys are pros. I'm sure they didn't step on each other for dates. So I think what a better time to go to Vegas, because I don't really gamble, but I could go to Vegas and watch an F1 race. I would be there on the front row, no problem.
Yeah, I think a nice view would be from one of the hotels looking down. And
yes.
If you want to see racing, the cars moving. I've been to the Iceberg, which was here in Phoenix. I think it came twice, I think you said. and I just had a hard time finding a good spot. So I just trying to find a turn or two so I can watch a couple of things. But it was freaking loud. It was freaking loud, man.
It's unbelievable. And not only that, guys, I think the top 3 events where you can see the best looking women is going to be the Kentucky Derby, the Long Beach Grand Prix, or probably the Indy 500.
No, we'll see when Vegas shows up because it may take.
Well, I was going to say there's going to be some Vegas showgirls out there. So we might have to bump the Indy 500 out of there for good looking women. I think Vegas might kind of get them out. Now, from a nostalgia standpoint, though, oldest race in America, the Indy 500. So I was blessed in 1997 to actually be part of it. Way cool to be part of it. Yeah.
How long has that been running? Has it been 100? Is it? How many years has that been?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's just 100, or just a little over 100. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
I thought maybe it was 107. I could be off, but I thought.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. I'm not certain because the Pikes Peak Hill Climb is right behind that. And I've raced that one too. So all that means is I'm old. I've hit the 2 oldest races in the country.
Wow. Where's the Daytona 500 sit?
Oh, okay. Well, the Daytona 500. Okay, are we talking women or are we talking racing?
Oh man, wait a minute. All right, let's go women because it's a beach nearby.
Dude, I was gonna say we're Daytona Beach. I mean, we're right on the beach. About 2/3 of the women there are wearing part of their bikini. Put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, so is there a lot of flashing? Like we see Monaco, and everybody's like, it looks like a red carpet event, if anything. But down in Daytona, I have to believe it's got to get wild. Like,
it does. It does. And if you want a good comparison for that, all you got to do is think Formula One is like wine and cheese. Think NASCAR is beer and hot dogs. I mean, that's, so everybody gets a little bit wilder at the NASCAR race. And like I said, if you go to a NASCAR race, you got to be careful who you sit next to because a lot of these times people are drinking with both hands. And if their guy gets past or he's making a move, you're going to wear about half that beer.
I will say the comparison is I just have a hard time watching and observing Formula One.
Yeah.
If you're there for the race, it's really unless you're at the finish line and you may get a little bit, but anywhere at a NASCAR track, I think Phoenix is pretty good too. It's you got the mountain, where fans can sit up there. But I've always gotten last couple of years right by the finish line, and it's just sheer power of all out speed. At one point, the cars hit the metal, pedal to the metal. You can tell when they push their car, and then they always got to slow down on the turns, but some races are all like that. But Phoenix has a couple of tight turns, and it opens up on that. Well, now they flip
the dog leg. Yeah.
Right. The dog leg, Mark, the dog leg, it's kind of like a dog leg. It just kind of loops around and they open that sucker up, man. And it's just intense. I've been through the little window of the fence where the cars come right to the wall of the turn. I'm getting debris splashing in my face. I'm with the photographer. I can see their eyes. I can see the driver's eyes, but it is an amazing power of energy from a NASCAR car. And I don't know about Grand Prix. I know they can open it up sometimes, but it's a lot of turns, and I just don't appreciate it.
No. The downforce in a Formula One car, power to weight ratio, is probably 3 times what a NASCAR is. So acceleration, deceleration, much better sticking. I mean, that's one thing about the Formula One guys. If you look, they hardly slow down for the corners. You say there's a lot of corners, but if you were sitting there, they're going through those corners that look like tight hairpins. They're doing 70, 80 miles an hour.
No way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're hitting like 130, 140 on those short stretches and back on the brakes. They got carbon fiber brakes, ceramic brake pads on it. I mean, it's the technology in Formula One is just out of this world. And if you really want to get inside a race and really understand it, get a pair of headphones and pick a team and listen to the communication, because the strategy and how they play it, they're all playing from the checkered flag back to the green flag. So it isn't like they start at the green flag and just start counting off laps. They're already figuring from the back end forward and what's the last time they can stop and what's the best time to switch up the pits, their pit stops. Maybe it's tires, maybe it's fuel. If you're stuck in a group that's not moving and you're like 30th, you might as well go ahead and pit for tires and get fuel. Let those guys go, because you're going to be able to pass them when you come back out, and they're going to have to come in anyway. So you can short pit. You go a little bit early. You can pick up some track position right there. That always works really well. And in F1, all they do is like run into each other. They're so the cars are so technology is just so good on them, but they're so fragile. So if they touch a wheel or something, like NASCAR, you see they can bump and bang and bounce off the wall. And the new cars actually aren't even made of metal; they're made of plastic. So they do that.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, and we're pretty much all around the same age here. We grew up, and I'm going to use an analogy on this. Horse racing and heavyweight boxing have kind of fallen off a cliff that we kind of grew up with. And the perception of hockey at the time was, oh, well, they only played out on the East Coast or cold weather. The perception of NASCAR was, it's a Southern sport, it's never going to make it out here. Now you look at those two sports, and they have just taken and run with it, and there's no coming back, man. They are just blowing it up.
Hey, Rednecks, White Sox, and Blue Ribbon beer.
Yeah.
That's it right there. NASCAR is a party. My camera guy that works for me is from Argentina. So he's a Formula One guy. And when we started going out to NASCAR years ago, we started doing video production for him. He came to me and he said, he honestly didn't know. He said, Wally, what is a redneck? He was expecting to see people with red necks. And I told him, look at me, I'm always red. So, that's kind of the thing. But at the same time, he also pointed out to me that if you're at a Formula One race, everybody's kind of prim and proper. They got the umbrella girls, but everybody's having a good time. If you look around in a NASCAR race, very few people are smiling. They're all drunk.
That's too fun. I do enjoy it. I've taken my daughter to NASCAR, and she loved it the first time she went. So I took her back this past year. We haven't got to the championship run yet. I'm going to try to get her to that. That's the Super Bowl now, right? It's here in Phoenix. But she lights up. For whatever reason, she lights up. And we do enjoy like the pit stops and timing their laps. And we stay engaged with the race and try to put even though we got the headsets on, which are fun, but we try to also engage in the race and all that, the game within the game. That, I think it was just the recent one, Mark, in Awali, where in Phoenix, where I forget who it was that went to a pit stop, and all he had to do was stay on the track, but he mistimed it because they had a couple of yellows, and he just didn't have enough time to get up to the front. So those little things go on constantly, and especially at the end of the race, and so it's like. And I'm really surprised my daughter, got into it. She's never seen it before. Never seen it before, but she loves it now. Now I got to take her every year.
What happened to the Ontario Motor Speedway? Remember that one?
Oh man, Riverside.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
That's the Auto Club Speedway now. Actually, they paved that over, made the Auto Club Speedway out of it. Now I think that's in jeopardy again. They're either changing it or going to take it out. I'm not sure, but I did hear rumors about that. But it is in LA. It's in San Bernardino County, right there, where the 15 and the 10 come together right in that area. That was good racing, man. I'll tell you, Riverside Road Courses right there was a big deal.
All right, Wally, before you go, NASCAR, we're talking June here, a lot more racing to go. Are we starting to see who are the better drivers, the better cars? Like because it seems like it's always up for grabs.
Kyle Larson's going to take it home this year. I can already see it happening.
Why is that? What do you see?
Okay, so first of all, if you know Kyle Larson or know a little bit of his history, he's an open wheel guy. He's a sprint car guy. The 410 alcohol burning, wing on top of him, wheelie down the straightaways and everything. So he's used to running loose. And if you think back to Jimmy Johnson and the great champion he was, he didn't come from that same type of dirt racing, but he came from an off-road and a Mickey Thompson Grand Prix kind of racing. So if you can drive a car loose, that's what, that's the art of it right there. So when you throw it into the turn, it's okay. If the front end's pushing a little bit, you just maybe tap the brake a little bit, get some weight transfer to it. Maybe you got tools in the car, a weight jacker or something, you move it around. But if you can get the back end happy, is like I call it, then you can just run around there and just throttle control the whole time. And he's pretty much kicking butt. Now he got he raced for Chip Ganassi a few years back and got caught on an iMovie thing or iRacing or something,
Right.
making some kind of a derogatory comment to his dad of all things in his house. And getting back to your amendments, First Amendment is freedom of speech. We have the Second Amendment to back up the First Amendment. That's how that goes. So I think he got a raw deal there. He spent like a season out sitting down thinking about it, and then Rick Hendrick picked him back up. And the best thing that could have happened, because the guy's got number one equipment. He's got number one talent. You know, I'd say the other one right behind him is Chase Elliott, but Chase has had a bad year with breaking his leg. I think he's snowboarding, so he missed about 8 races, and then he's going to miss the next race too because he took out Denny Hamlin on Monday during the race there during the Coca-Cola 600. That's uncharacteristic for him in general because he's usually a pretty cool head. So I was surprised to see him get a little upset. And frankly, I mean, I can see what NASCAR did, but I'd have to let it go as a racer. Yeah, I mean, Denny Hamlin was mad for sure. But then also, if you look over at Tony Stewart Racing, you know, they got caught remanufacturing belly pans, you know, for the number 14 car, and it wasn't like maybe a little bit of it wasn't a modification or something. It was deceiving. You know, they did it specifically. There's a NACA on the bottom that lets air in and out the diffuser out of the back, and that's how the NASCARs now generate more downforce from their bottom tray than they do from the top of the body. So it's kind of weird that way. But the amount of air that goes in there, they restricted the opening. They made a smaller opening. So that cuts down on the downforce. When downforce is also drag that slows you down. So,
hey, Wally,
Wow.
I love what you just said. So are manufacturers building cars for that down under flow? Why?
Well, there's a couple of cars out there, and I can't remember which ones they are. There's just a couple. It might be like a Lexus or something like that. Maybe one of the hot rod, like an LC 500. I think Lexus might have it. If you look on the back of some cars, you'll see a little bit of a diffuser down, like where the spare tire used to be, kind of thing. You look down there and you'll see some lines. So if you see that in an aerodynamic kit or on a car, chances are it's either going to be a fast car or it's somebody wanting to look like they're fast. But you know, and really, it's nothing but a plastic tray that kind of attaches up underneath there. It's not part of the structure or anything. It's just kind of rerouting the air.
Okay, so it just traps it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Mark. Go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was gonna say. So, how did you get into it? Because somebody either gets you into the NASCAR field, or maybe it was a parent or somebody. Because I first got in it, and this is weird. It wasn't, watching Speed Racer cartoons. It was the Dukes of Hazzard, man. That really got me into all these type of things, and man, I was hook, line, sinker on it. I don't know what your stories on you two guys were to get into this, but that was
AJ Fort. Mine was AJ Fort. AJ Fort was my guy.
Supertex, Supertex.
Yeah.
Supertex, another guy. Everybody's afraid of him, bad temper and everything. The guy's a hoot if you sit down and talk to him. I've interviewed him a few times, and he's good. I had the pleasure, and it was really a blessing. One day before I guess it was probably 97 or 98, the same IndyCar races we were talking about before. I was out there with Al Sr. We were doing some stuff, and it was lunchtime, and they didn't have a tunnel then, so they had to close the track down, and you drove out in turn 4 where the dog leg is now. Never used to be there. You just went out to the track right there. And as we were going to lunch, we're driving to the pits, and there's AJ walking, and Al toots the horn at him, and AJ jumps in the car with us to go to lunch. Well, about another 30 feet down the line, Rick Mears, which I know from off-road racing, Rick jumps in the car. So I'm with Al Unser, AJ Foyt, and Rick Mears eating lunch at Wendy's.
Wow.
That's an awesome story. That's pretty cool.
Well, now it's to the point you must have a great pregame. They must have a pregame, postgame thing now with how far it's come this day.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. It's something. I mean, like you talk about how did people get started in it. I actually grew up in Wisconsin, a little town called Jefferson, had a little quarter-mile dirt track outside of town that my mother would take us to the races all the time. And just like the
God.
drunks at the NASCAR race, you didn't want to sit next to my mother either because she was elbowing you every time there was a wreck. She loved the wrecks.
Drinking the old Milwaukee's.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was Heileman Old Style. Heilemans.
Yeah.
My grandpa turned me onto that. That was
Old
pretty good.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, old Milwaukee. Yeah.
Shit.
Hey, Wally, man, I appreciate it, man.
I got to get him back, man. He's great.
He's the only one I know that can talk about anything about race, anything about wheels.
And teeth. And teeth.
And teeth.
Yeah. Who else has NASCAR teeth?
You know what's interesting with that, guys, before he goes, is you don't see enough of that. And when I would do interviews with people from all different sports, you find out what makes them tick besides the sports they play. And like you were saying with some of these guys, they don't know the sense of humor because they never want to take it. They're just there for a quick story. It just opens them up on so many different things if you just take the time.
Oh, amen. Amen. And Brad, you know this. If you take the time, if you're going to do an interview on radio or television or something, you want 10 or 15 minutes with the person before you go on to get that bond going, get that little bit of a tidbit story. Maybe it's the wife, maybe it's the kid, maybe it's a dog. I mean, there's always something that comes out of that conversation that will get you in. And that's where you can find out if your interviewer was really worth their salt or not, is did they get in? Did they learn something? Do they have follow-up questions? I mean, I'm so dismayed a lot of times with some of these interviews that you hear now. It's like there's just a follow-up question waiting right there, and they don't take. Yeah, they don't take it. It's like,
how did you lose the race?
Well,
yes, that guy beat me.
I ran out of laps.
Right. Very generic, right? When we don't like generic. I do that. And Wally's not generic, folks. He's very authentic, okay?
Wally's going to be a Scorpio like me. Wally, are you Scorpio? Are you November birthday?
No, I'm a Taurus, full of bull.
He's got horns. He's got horns.
Got little May, man. Yeah.
You must have celebrated recently, too. That's good.
Hey,
Wally, man.
Birthday.
I appreciate it, Wally. I know I tried to get you on more than off, but it's just the way it goes. But I maybe, who knows, something breaks and good in the racing world. We'll jump in again.
Yeah, give me a yell, man. Give me a yell. Good to see you. And nice to meet you, Mark. I don't think I've ever met you before.
No. Yeah, well,
anybody with a name like Madman, I want to party with you, dude.
Well, you know what? Don't feel it's an acquired taste.
That's what she said last night.
That's Wally. All right. Well, that's awesome. Wally, there's no filter.
That's right. We have no FCC here, right?
God gives us strengths. To hell with the weaknesses.
That's right. Yeah. Glory to God. Amen to all my Christian brothers out there.
I will leave you with this. I got a shirt that says nobody's perfect, but I'm Mancini, so I'm pretty damn close.
There you go.
You guys have a good one. Okay, see you, man.
Man, what a great guy.
Thank you so much.
What a great guy, man.
Wally,
this is a great show, man.
That was fun.
Yeah.
You can talk to him over and over again about things, and
those kind of guys, that type of personality, you get him in once, he comes back 6, 7, 8, 9 times, he turns you on to 10, 12 other people.
Exactly.
Simply amazing, man.
Oh, he's very deep rooted in the racing world, or in anything with cars and stuff. Like, it's just beyond, because he's been around for a very long time, and he's done his job, and he has his passion for it. So it's very, very
it's like talking to athletes and stuff. You sit down, and you both of us have interviewed Kip Gross, just to talk about like busting these guys in where they can't extend the arms. What do you throw them? And just simply amazing when they'll go on and on. I mean, I just love it.
Yeah, but I've had attempted interviews with guys who just give me some serious attitude.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar just gave me. I mean, he must have burned 10 questions out in 30 seconds on me. And then I go, yeah. It was kind of like, Will, do you want to talk about the red Milwaukee going across your jersey there?
No, you gotta understand how to approach a player. there's quiet times, there's relaxing times. That's the best time.
Yeah.
When it's close to game time or after an event like that, you got to really be cautious because if they lose or rough day, the
Yeah.
competitive
it turns
spirits
it.
there, it's really challenging,
I
and
was in a clubhouse in San Diego once, man, and there was a pitcher I think that gave up 8-9 runs in the first 2 innings, and Jim Fregosi. And back then, you were in those little cubicles interviewing the manager, and I mean, you were crammed in the old Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, and there must have been 6-7 guys. And the interview went on. They're talking to Jim Fregosi. This guy walks in the middle of a conversation. He goes, "Where's Michael Mims, the guy you pulled? I'm trying to interview him." And I mean, it's just dead silence. Dead silence. And
that sounds like the Dan Marino story for me.
Yeah.
Dan's only a few years older than me, right? But I was in Miami covering the Dolphins, and Miami and Marino was just a hot stud, right? So he was breaking records and things like that. And all of a sudden, Marino's at his locker in the Orange Bowl. Nobody's around him, and my job is to get quotes for the next morning and for the radio station. So I go up to Dan, and this is Dan Marino, 1985, I think it was, right? So he's in the middle of that great run, and
Duper and Clayton.
Well, those guys, Mark Clayton is an asshole. I mean, maybe not today, but he was an asshole to me. And he just, because I wasn't like a big name guy, and he didn't he pushed me to, it was not really physically, but so Dan is in his towel at his locker, and I'm like, crap. I'm gonna go up to Dan and and Dan goes, "Hey, this is how I do it." He puts his arm around me, Mark.
Wow.
He put his arm around me. He goes, "This is how he treat me like a little kid." He goes, "This is how I do it. I come out of the shower every game or practice, and I just get myself together. And when I'm ready, I'll just call you guys to my locker." See, back then was the locker. Now it's a conference room.
You should have told him you were from Mount Lebo, Pennsylvania. If you're a Pittsburgh guy, then he probably would have let you.
Oh, I had all the questions. I actually was about Pittsburgh too, and about not getting drafted by him too. But I didn't get a question in. I had a second opportunity later on, but by the time I turned my back and looked for somebody, I looked back and it was like 80 people around his locker. So it was that intense with him at the time. But I've had some good moments.
Footballs are the toughest. They're in and out. It's hard to get them. It's like basketball.
Yeah.
Hockey, they'll spend a little more, but baseball's the best. You can spend 3-4 days with them.
Yeah, it's good, and they always got baseball's got a lot of food too for these players after the game in their locker room, so it's kind of like they stick around for the meal and they chill, and there's something different about it. I love spring training for the fact that I can sit down with players, talk to them. I've had some great experiences of talking to players during football camp, where they're at a different place, and they're walking from their dorm room to the field, or practice is over and waiting for the lunchroom or the rec hall to eat, and they're just chilling outside with shorts. And those are the moments where you can sit down with players and just have a nice conversation without stress and worrying about.
I was going to ask you. I was doing a show with Danielle the other day, the Moving the Chains podcast, and we were talking about the Arizona Cardinals situation. And I said, I'll probably ask Cornelius this. With admission to an Arizona Cardinal game this year, did he get a bag so people will recognize you're at the game?
I think the Cardinal fans will do much better than that, and they will sell their tickets so nobody can see them at the game.
I've always said this: he who blinks first loses. And boy, did the Cardinals blink on Murray there. When everybody was giving all the money to these quarterbacks, and they gave it, and boy, I'll tell you, they're trying to backpedal here on this thing, and I think it's going to get to the point where I don't want to say the Cardinals could be one of the worst teams in the NFC, because the NFC is going to be wide open, but
they're going to be bad. They probably are going to be the number one team overall again. And then we'll see how they, different team. I mean, different front office people. But speaking of quarterbacks, this is something that came up. Keyshawn Johnson thinks Dak Prescott is better than Joe Burrow, and Dak got the big contract. Burrow is about to get paid even more. I think Burrow, in a short period of window here, has been to a Super Bowl and AFC Championship games, and I think there's a big difference. And I think maybe did the Dallas Cowboys blink too fast on Dak Prescott, or is Keyshawn close enough? I mean, I'm not saying Dak is a horrible quarterback, but he's not better than Joe Burrow. I'll take Burrow anytime.
No, I like Dak when he came out of Mississippi State, I believe it was, and he was like the 11th pick, and he was behind half these guys. But I think the problem there, and maybe he needs to get away from Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe, it's one of those situations. We're going to find out where Ezekiel ends up. I know the Steelers have been looking at him. I think Ezekiel will end up in Tampa. But I'll tell you one thing. In the AFC, Cornelius, you mark this thing down. You're going to have to win 11 games, and there's going to be some teams petition to get in the NFC from the AFC because they're going to be sitting home for the playoffs.
I'll tell you right now that the Jets are going to surprise people.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to keep that it's the Aaron Rodgers effect. It's going to happen, folks. And everybody thinks he's got a lot of talent and more talent, and they got some superstars, young superstars. And the football giants, when they just picked up the former Raider tight end, Waller, man. I mean, Daniel Jones has got weapons and stuff, and they got a defense. And I think New York may have their, a lot of good things to talk about this football season.
And both those teams go through Vegas. I know the Giants go through Arizona. I don't know if the Jets go through Arizona, but Jets go through Vegas too.
Yeah, the state of New York is going to have Buffalo and the Jets and the Giants. It could be a very fun football season in the state of New York. Where this is all lining up.
In LA, it's going to be something. You're going to have Buffalo, Cleveland, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Washington, Philadelphia, Dallas, all coming out here.
I would say in LA, you probably can find a cheap ticket to watch the Rams, and I just don't see the Chargers what they've done to really from a year ago.
They'll have a high-powered offense. They drafted that kid out of TCU. He's really good. They'll put up the points, but I don't know. I think the bottom line is they need a better coach, and Brandon Staley's not the guy to lead them.
Yeah, it's gonna. I don't see both LA teams. It's gonna be a long season over there too. So, I think we'll just give it up to San Fran for the state of California, and they should be sticking around. But we'll see what the quarterback situation is. Speaking of quarterback situation on the West Coast and things like that, and a former quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. And this is a report from a good friend, Dave Coelho, who got the report from Climate itself. Is Jimmy Garoppolo failed his Raiders physical in March, and he could lose his entire contract. All right, this is Pro Football Talk reporting that. So, do you remember what happened this recent week or so with Tom Brady buying a small percentage of the Raiders? If G-Rob cannot play, does Tom have to step in and go, let me try to bridge this for one more year? Kind of odd, but it like that report
kind of pulling a Ted Turner like he did in Pittsburgh. He fired the manager for a night and he managed a team in Pittsburgh. Remember that in the 90s?
Yes. So if this goes down and if Garoppolo does not improve and satisfy the Raiders, and he loses his contract. I mean, I'm not quite sure about all this and how this played out, but I think the Raiders should have done their homework. But there is Tom Brady, who just bought a percentage of the Raiders. And, March was a couple of months ago, and Tom just recently put his money in there to invest in the Raiders. Is this part of this whole connection? Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, Mark.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild, but
I love this show. I can't wait for next week, man. We'll be bringing, and hopefully the Miami Heat will have a comfortable lead on Denver by then.
They lost tonight by 11, but it pretty much it just could not. It was the second half, the second quarter, the second half of that second quarter, like the last 5 minutes, say. Denver really took it to them, and Miami never was able to recover. And it was just one of those nights where you lost the deficit, you lost the lead, and then you just get behind, and you just couldn't. And Denver's been great at home.
Yeah.
that home court, the altitude, things like that. It definitely Miami will adjust, get their legs under them a little bit, understand it, and we'll see what happens. But if they go down 2-0, it's going to be tough. I mean,
Yeah.
Denver's pretty good. Mark, how much time you got before we throw you out? You got to get out.
A couple more minutes.
All right. Let's preview this real quick. Hockey, Stanley Cup Finals. Okay, game 1, Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's on TNT and then the Canadian broadcast, right? But Vegas back to the finals after a couple of years. Yeah, still that.
Yeah, they've been in the league 6 years. They've been to the finals twice. The only other teams that I think they have done that is Edmonton and St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, that Cassidy coach that Boston let go, they're ruined the day they let him go. And he's done wonders. Vegas is a big team. I know Florida likes to play that trap, and they've taken out the number 1, the number 2, and the number 4 team in the East. I don't know if they can handle Vegas. Vegas is a big bear to tackle. They got some big guys, man.
It's amazing what's happening down in Miami, though. We talk about the Heat. They're like an 8th seed going in right to the finals. Well, don't forget about Florida. The Panthers themselves had a squeak in on the very last day. I know you're aware of it, Mark, because it was down to the Islanders, Penguins, and the Panthers. And the Panthers snuck in last game of the year, last part of it. And now they're in the finals. And they're a different team because they made all the trades. They had a great finish of the season. They finished strong and found a way to get in. And that's why I'm not surprised. And this guy right here was a big, big part of it.
Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah. That's we're going to watch. This is a great time. Finals, going on, NBA and Stanley Cup Finals. This may be the first time I've recognized, I think ever since COVID, I think it kind of flipped a little bit, where hockey it extended themselves to where they're starting a little bit later than the NBA Finals.
Yeah,
remember?
Because it used to be hockey would be done by now.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Weird
so if
how
hockey
both
gets to
times.
a game, if they get to a game 6 or 7, all eyes are on that because the NBA Finals could be over by then. And I think hockey strategically is prepared themselves for that kind of a game 6, game 7. We'll see how this all plays out.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see how it all plays out.
Hey,
Hey, Mark.
I love you, brother. The duel in the desert, man. We just keep tearing it up. Welcome home. The Coyotes, where are they going now?
Mesa, Arizona.
Oh, my God.
They
can't build them the stadium, man?
I'll tell you what happened. And it's something that I didn't think about and I talk about it enough. The Arizona Coyotes had everything in place, folks. The taxpayers of Tempe didn't have to worry about anything. It was a slam dunk. Politics got involved, and they allowed it to go to vote. They didn't have to let it go to vote, but the people of city of Tempe went through the whole thing, and they put it to a vote and made it go to the public to vote on it, and that's where it fell apart. And they lost, and I don't know how it played out, but everything about voting these days.
In other words, what you're saying is they didn't educate the voters on what's a hockey stick and a puck.
It didn't make sense, Mark. They didn't cost them a dime. It would have brought in thousands of jobs and millions of dollars, and it was stupid, right? And blah blah blah. But the city of Mesa immediately communicated, like the day after of that vote. There is a major property area where an old Fiesta Mall used to be, or is.
Fiesta Mall.
It's just been sitting there, and that's the area. They're going to the same concept, the same entertainment area. Taxpayers will not get involved in it, and the deal is, from what I understand, it will not be going to a vote to the city of Mesa, the public itself, to vote on the people itself. It's more of buy the property, build it, and start. There's no because nobody's paying for this other than the Coyotes. So how did Tempe screw that up? So there you go, Mark. That just kind of sums it up.
That's amazing. Wow.
All right, man. I know you're
I love you, brother, man. I can't wait for next Thursday, man, as we rip up the desert, take it apart in Phoenix, man, break it down. Man, oh, man, Wally was good. You're the best.
All right, Mark, I appreciate it.
I love you. Have a blessed week.
You got it.
And I can't wait for next Thursday.
Next Thursday. All right, man. The
Thank you,
madman,
brother.
Mancini. All right, he's out. All right, I'm going to talk a little soccer right now. And USA men's, even teenagers, we can say 20 and under, something really special is happening. And it's really going unnoticed because it's World Cup, but 20 and under. But if you're talking soccer around USA, around the country itself, it's been, a sport that's very popular here, but for some reason cannot get to the level of the other major countries or elite in their sport is soccer. The Brazils, the Argentinas, the Germany, the Italians, think just down the board. Okay. Spaniards, everything. So here's the deal. They have not lost. The USA 20 and under. They're in the World Cup. They were in their group. They swept through their group, winning 3 straight games, never given up a goal, folks. They have been so dominant. Then they go into the next round where it's elimination time. They take out New Zealand 4-0 on, 2 nights ago? 4-0. They are an extremely good or really good soccer team. The question now is this the talent that's going to emerge to lift? This is some great talent. They're dominating what they're doing out there, 20 and under. And we're talking a very special team. We're going to talk about historic stuff going on globally when it comes to 20 and under teams around the world. They're not doing this. Does USA have the next wave or the talent to get them to the higher level? Like they had a great World Cup, had a nice showing. But now it has to get to the next level. These boys, the USA 20 and under, play on Sunday. If you're on the East Coast, I think it's like a 1:00 start. It's going to be on any of the Fox broadcast networks itself. I'm very excited because I've been waiting for decades for Team USA men's to get to that point, to push it and get to a World Cup championship, right? And it's getting close because guess what's happening? Where is the next World Cup going to be, right? It's coming to America too, or to the Americas too, here real soon. Now, here's another stat for you. Since the World Cup of 20 and under for soccer, for men's or boys or teenagers, right? It's been 23 years. 17 times USA has qualified and gotten through. They are the second most to have done that in any country. And it makes you wonder why they haven't been able to emerge at the elite level when it comes to the World Cup. Maybe what we're watching, if you haven't watched it yet, watching something very special happening with the system, how they put it together, and maybe finally somebody understands how to take some great talent in the United States of soccer, all those great college players, those great high school players, young talent, put them through the developing system, those developing leagues, right? And get them onto the national team. All those youth programs. Could this be? It gives us a lot of hope and promise that this is the wave for the next 10 years that we're watching what happened last summer or the last World Cup and what we're watching right now with the 20 and under USA men's or boys soccer team. I'm excited. The quarterfinals are on Sunday. I think tonight we'll find out who they play. And let's see if they can run the table and get to the championship and win it all and give us a lot to look forward to. USA soccer has a lot of promise. The women have been doing their thing. The men are starting to get closer and closer to the top. I think this may be it. It just may be it. All right, folks. Again, NBA Finals. Denver wins game 1 by 11 points, pretty much at double-digit leads. Had it throughout the whole second half. Had a 20 whatever point lead at one point. Somehow Miami got a little closer, but it never was a threat. As game 2, I think, is on Sunday. We got a couple of days off before, and then they go to Miami for a couple too. So, all right. So game 2 Sunday for the finals. We got hockey starting this weekend and the soccer to pay attention to. A lot of sports going on. Folks, I got to get out of here too. I appreciate your time and your efforts here. Love you guys. Right here on Global Sports Broadcasting Network. Cornelius, Brad, Hannah had Wally Cahill talking about the difference between Grand Prix and NASCAR and the debate, okay? But we're going to say goodbye. We had Mark Mancini, who he just said goodbye to. We talked about the Dodgers, Dodger Pride. It's June, it's Pride Month and all that stuff, and sports and how they're dealing with it. But Dodger players are speaking up and really pushing back on this with the Dodgers, how it's gone with a hate group that they invited back. At least that's how they see it. We'll find more about what the Dodgers do and how they handle it. It's going to get really interesting as that topic heats up more and more. We had a little fun here. I didn't show it to you as I get this off the screen. There we go. You want to dance a little bit? How about this guy before we head out? Mr. Swiftie himself, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he went to a Taylor Swift concert. Aaron, just make sure you dance a lot in New York and get the Jets to a Super Bowl. That's what they're looking for. That's going to do it. Hannah time. Cornelius Brad Hannah, Global Sports Broadcasting Network. We are out. One more time? Nah. Bye-bye, everybody.